The advancement of the sciences is one of the most important things a person can do for the betterment of humanity. Through science, we discover new places to find new resources, use those resources to make new tools that make our lives easier, and those tools and the newfound power we obtain through them gives us the means to strike down the gods that sneer down at us from the ether. That last one's gonna take a bit, but I know we can do it. Unrelated to that though, I've been playing a lot of Abiotic Factor, a survival game where you and your friends play as a group of scientists stranded in a massive facility during an interdimensional disaster and containment breach. Why yes, it is very much inspired by the likes of Half-Life and the SCP files in the best way possible. I initially heard of Abiotic Factor after a few of you started asking me if I considered it an immersive sim back when it was still in early access. We will get to that later, I promise. For now though, Abiotic Factor has you playing as a bespoke-made scientist with its own stats and buffs and debuffs, working at the GATE Cascade Facility in Australia, studying, among other things, gateways into other realities. Some bad stuff happened though, and now those gateways have gotten so unstable, basically anyone or anything can come in and out of them. Half the gates won't open properly anymore, while the other half won't close no matter how hard we try. Lucky for you, you're a crafty sort, and you've got the means and the brains to fortify your position, craft the tools you need to get out of this mess, and maybe if you're lucky, you'll get to see the sun again. Abiotic Factor is not just some of the best of survival crafting in a game I've seen, but also some of the best level design and world building too. There's a ton of places to explore and things to learn about, including a ton of audio logs and more codex entries than you could possibly find. The game basically becomes a whole different experience too, about 2/3 of the way in, once you start getting the really good tech. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves though. We need to go to lab orientation first. Don't forget to pack a thermos full of soup for lunch today. Before we show up for orientation, I'd like to ask you something real quick. With the way things are going on the platform, you might have noticed this is the first video you've seen on my channel since December, because that's kind of how you gotta operate now. Bigger videos that take a while to make because quality above all else. Don't worry, I'm gonna put out more videos on the second channel if you're hankering for a fix, and the time between this video and the next isn't going to be nearly as long because I've got a running start on that one. These videos are ambitious and take a lot of time and effort to make, and my Patreon page is what makes it possible for me to put in that time and effort. Your support through patreon.com/charlatanwonder not only makes these videos possible, but also gets you cool stuff, like early access to videos like this one, plus a bunch of other things. Even the smallest of pledges goes a long way. And if you don't like the monthly commitment or just don't like Patreon in general, I've also opened up a Ko-Fi where you can do a one and done tip to buy me more soup ingredients. Thank you. Now let's get our science on. Welcome to employee orientation. Bruce lets us in and we ride the elevator down to the facility and... Whoa. What was that thing? I'm sure they've got that under control. For now, we've got to learn how to crawl through vents and get around obstructions, and how to catch small creatures that might have escaped their containment patents. Wait, why are we doing this? Shouldn't this be a security team member's job? How much do these guys get out of their holding cells that necessitates us learning how to do this too? We get the absolute basics on moving, crafting, and using our menus, and then we're whisked off to the character creation screen to make our scientist. The next thing we know, the entire facility is in complete containment failure, and it looks like no one is coming to save us. We start out just outside the office level cafeteria, which is where I'd like to think is a lore accurate choice, at least for me, as I've gone hard into the cooking skill for my build, and that's where Charl, the somatic gastrologist, would most likely be when things start happening too fast to keep track of how many things are happening. According to Dr. Thule over here, everything is going very, very poorly, as an NGO who strongly objects to our research has broken into the facility and their tomfoolery has caused a mass containment breach. Most of security went down trying to hold off this group known as the Order, and we're effectively on our own if we want to get out alive. I need to fend off any creatures that come my way, and in the meantime make sure I take care of all my needs. That's not just food and water like in most games, but also sleep, body temperature, hygiene, and bathroom breaks. Yes, Stinky is a real debuff you can get in this game, and you're going to need to deal with that if you do not want to get sick and get even more debuffs. Some people aren't aware of this, but this feature is actually based on real life. As for the latter, yes, it is indeed possible to soil yourself in this game. It has no immediate debuffs aside from hygiene, but if you're playing on multiplayer, you are never going to live this down. Lucky for you, the toilets still work and the sinks seem to be filling every now and again, so you can relieve yourself and then get some clean water to wash yourself off once you're done. The intermittently filling sinks are an inconsistent solution to water though, so we'll have to start stealing water coolers from around the office. And a fridge too, because food will spoil if you leave it out. We are going to need to reappropriate a lot of stuff from the offices if we want to survive. We're getting ahead of ourselves though. We gotta find that food I mentioned first. Lucky for us, these little guys jumping around are made out of delicious meat, and it only has a little bit of the no-no fuzzies inside of them. Why are we catching these guys in nets during the tutorial when we could have just been like stabbing or bludgeoning them the whole time? This is so much more efficient. We gotta get on with making our surroundings livable too. I don't think I'm supposed to be eating raw meat like this in the first place, even when it's normal meat, and I don't want to think about what might be inside interdimensional meat. The couch in the kitchen break room will have to do for sleeping for now, but I've set up a stove, some basic storage, and a workbench to build new stuff with. I fashioned myself a spear out of a floor lamp and a shield from a cafeteria tray, and I am ready to take on the facility. And then the power gets cut. Okay, this isn't too bad. I just need to find the stuff I need to make some battery banks so I can keep my stuff running through the night and— oh my god, the robots turn on after dark. I thought these were display models. Jeez, these things do not quit. I am running through the whole facility, hoping to God that I encounter some sort of monster to distract this robot with, and— what are these things? Are these souls? They don't seem to attack me, and I can't seem to grab them no matter how hard I try. The potential that I have discovered proof of the immutable soul thanks to an interdimensional disaster is going to have to wait though, because there are some other things I have discovered. I have realized two things. I am totally lost out here, and that I am going to need help. I am badly hurt, starving to death, and have no way of going up against those security bots at night. And I think I've also absorbed a life-altering amount of radiation in my first day here. Additionally, I was playing this late in early access, and while later on I was able to get midway through manufacturing on my own, I figured it'd be best to stop this pleasant playthrough and wait for version 1.0 to come out, where all the fixes and all the new features that 1.0 brings are there. This ended up being 100% the right choice, as while the early access was really good, the final game is amazing. Let's try this again. I build a similar character to what I had back in early access and get started in the office again with one important change. I brought a friend along. Meet Poe. She's from the office admin department and got stuck here during the containment failure too. Alone, we're screwed, but together we can fortify the base, find some supplies to keep us going, and maybe even stand a chance at killing one of those robots. An extra set of hands makes all the difference in the world. We get our base set up and even have the means to start crafting ourselves some very basic armor from some magazines and filing cabinets we found so that we don't start bleeding to death whenever one of those little spiky dudes touches us. The big scary dog things are still a problem, but they're a problem that we can run away from. Once you aren't worried about dying after you leave the safety of the cafeteria, you can do all sorts of things in the office, like exploring, trying to figure out what the heck we're supposed to be doing to get out of here, and science. Turns out you can make all sorts of stuff by taking office supplies and creatures apart and putting their pieces back together in different ways. We managed to set up a backup power array to allow our fridge to work properly through the night, and can also whip up some new makeshift weapons that gives us a chance against the evil doggy things. The fridge is great, but not radiation proof, so we have to keep a lot of the raw stuff in the designated radiation trash can on the other side of the cafeteria, as most of the raw meat is radioactive. Because we are presently the only scientists and people doing any cooking in the whole facility, that means that the radiation trash can on the other side of the cafeteria from us is the forefront of food safety. We also figure out a way to upgrade our workbench by taping the heart of one of the extra dimensional creatures to it, and then adding some funny wheat, which allows it to teleport all the ingredients in our storage boxes to the bench as we're crafting, and it will heal us when we're near it too. That's going to be pretty handy because now we're getting attacked at night. But most importantly, we built a stove. No more raw meat for dinner. Cooking has its own dedicated skill in Abiotic Factor, and there are quite a few recipes you can learn that not only keep you from starving to death, but also can give you a variety of really good buffs too. You can even get good enough at cooking to remove most of the radiation from exotic meats. There are 3 categories that most foods fall into, between pan-fried stuff, oven-baked stuff that comes later down the line, and soup. Soups are a powerful source of early game buffs, and if you do a little bit of farming alongside making your soups regularly, you will likely blitz your way to max level farming well before you get any other maxed out skills, which is in turn going to be great for cooking and keeping yourself from starving to death. Some viewers noticed just how absurdly fast I was leveling up my cooking skills when we were streaming this, and what did you expect? They let you make soup! Soup is the ideal form of nutrition. It not only wastes next to no calories during the cooking process, but also manages to hydrate you while you eat it. Everything should be soup. Cooking is a lot of fun, and I very quickly end up filling our fridge, not only for safe, mostly non-radioactive foods, but also our new radiation fridge we borrowed from the office break room over by the bathrooms too. We'll upgrade these later. Now that we've solved our food and shelter needs, it's time for some team building exercises. And what better team building exercise than getting revenge on the robots? This is something we need to do anyway. You see, in order to get out of here, or at least get out of the office complex, we need to make ourselves a device that tricks the security panels into thinking we have level 1 clearance. Unfortunately, we can't just make that out of computer parts laying around in the office, because whatever special encryption these keypads have is a little smarter than a computer broken down and put back together. You know what does have that encryption? The robots. We need to find a way to kill these things using a spear made out of a kitchen knife and a floor lamp, and a crossbow made out of staplers and pens. Our entire arsenal is presently held together by rubber bands and tape. But what do you know? The good old-fashioned tank and spank works in a scientific setting. Thanks to a little help from one of the co-workers and a lot of crossbow bolts fashioned out of pens, we're able to take down one of the robots and use their parts to make a security clearance device that gets us deeper into the office. We need to kill at least 3 of these guys to get all the parts we need, and... Hey, why are the robots full of soda? Whatever, at least we got a good deal of scrap metal too. Between the robot violence, we find ourselves an odd portal that leads us to, of all things, a Japanese shrine. This is Tori, a portal world that's meant to act as a potential home base for players. We didn't know that at the time and explored it for a bit, stole all of the furniture, and then spent the rest of our time there fishing. Just like cooking, there's all sorts of fish you can catch across the facility, and each major area in the GATE Cascade Facility has multiple biomes of fishing in them. There's even special things you can build that require materials that you can only get through angling across the whole facility and the multiverse, so even if you aren't big on fishing minigames, it's worthwhile to at least get enough skill in fishing to set up traps. I should really get around to that. Fishing's nice, but it's also a level-based skill, so while it can be relaxing, it won't be rewarding for a while. We head back to the base and put the parts of the robot back together to create our keypad hacker. Now that we've got ourselves a security pass, many doors are open to us. Literally. We make our way into the deeper parts of the offices where there's a portal to another world. Not the one we need, but the one that tells us where the things we need are. We're looking for power cells, not batteries like the ones we've built to plug into walls and daisy chain to our appliances so they'll hold a charge through the night, but these special blue things that emit their own power and give you lots of no-no fuzzies. We traverse the far garden where we meet these dudes who have wonderful hearts, like the ones we need to slap onto our workbench. I want their hearts. I can use their hearts for science. Give me your heart. You aren't using it for anything important right now. I can put their hearts into soup too, and it makes us stronger, further cementing that soup is the ideal food. Far Garden is a test run for going into other anteverses, which are usually radioactive, filled with hostile dudes, and often are unskippable dungeons that you need to get to the end of if you want to get further into the Cascade Facility. The power cells we need are anywhere in the gate facility that we can access. They are, however, in a facility we can access through a portal just past the first set of security checkpoints. We run across one of these order guys who's behind all this chaos, but lucky for us, they aren't exactly in a position to be hindering us. They just talk some trash about how they've stopped us, but what exactly did they stop aside from keeping everything in containment? Let's go into that portal. Welcome to Flat Hill. Flat Hill is a seemingly unremarkable town, save for that it is the host to a regional gate facility, that there is an unnatural fog perpetually covering the town, and the invincible giants that are just wandering around. That's, I guess there's been an itty-bitty containment breach here. These guys aren't supposed to be out and about like this. These entities are called the Composers, and they are now freely wandering the streets. You cannot kill the Composers. You can't even meaningfully stun or damage them. Your only advantage against them is that they are unable to hear you. If you haven't done any stealth up until this point, you are about to start. The Composers can be pretty scary, but never mind the power cells, Flat Hill is a goldmine of stuff to get for your base. It's a good source of staplers and magazines. You can get a reliable supply of foodstuffs, including ice cream, soups, salt, and fruits that you can make into seeds to start your own farm. And you can steal everything that isn't bolted down from the bowling alley to decorate your base. I did. The path to Flat Hill's GATE facility is scary at first until you realize that the conductor's greatest strength is also a weakness. They are very large. We just hide inside of a playground for a bit until they get bored, or perhaps these extra-dimensional entities just don't have object permanence like we do, and they just forgot about us and wander off. I'm not gonna question it because we're safe. This would be a good time to talk about some of the simminess of Abiotic Factor. Abiotic Factor has plenty of the elements that make an immersive sim, and it's easy to call it one, and if you want to call it one, it is one. Me personally, I think it's more of a survival game that incorporates the best parts of an immersive sim into its gameplay loop, and while I initially had no idea what everyone was talking about when they were asking me if it could be an immersive sim, after getting past the early game survival hump, I saw that Abiotic Factor goes hard into giving the player the freedom to goof around with its built-out systems, and I can easily see why the people who suggested me this game on the grounds that they thought Abiotic Factor was an immersive sim did so, and I'm frankly very happy they did. To be productive about it though, let me tell you about the intersection of systems that made me a believer. Abiotic Factor is a survival game at its core that involves a lot of crafting and base building. A lot of games like this have some limiters baked into the game that make sure that you can only build in places the developers want you to build. Take, for example, how another survival series near and dear to my heart, The Forest, makes it impossible to do any serious building in the oh-so-challenging cave networks by making it impossible to bring timber or heavy stones in through the crevices you will need to pass through to enter the cave network. You can still make stuff like lights, stick-based furniture, and even a very basic bed inside the caves, but you cannot build a forward-operating base deep below ground. Abiotic Factor cares not for where you are. You can build anywhere. As long as there is enough physical space for you to put an object down, you can place it there. It doesn't matter if you're in the starting cafeteria or a highly toxic extra-dimensional portal world crawling with aliens. If you can put it down, it gets placed. Now add that all buildable items are made at a crafting bench and can be placed in your inventory to bring with you wherever you want them to be, including a crafting bench itself, and that nearly every portal world has some sort of power outlet that you can start powering things with. They are practically begging you to build forward operating bases in portal worlds. I did, and among the buildable things you can carry on your person are boxes. Stackable boxes. You can see where I am going with this, but it gets better. Yes, you can stack boxes to get just about anywhere you need to be, but there's a drawback. Boxes are short, wide, and the amount of boxes you'll need to bypass something is going to take up a lot of your inventory and carry weight, and all of that is really going to start adding up. Enter the humble water cooler. Water coolers have one of the smallest furniture footprints in the whole game, and are not only much taller than any of the craftable boxes and chests in the game, but are just low enough to where a player can crouch jump on top of them without any buffs to your jump height. They're effectively 3 basic boxes that only need half the space of a single box. You know what's even better? Water coolers are initially pretty heavy because they're full of water, but you can empty and fill them as needed, and an empty water cooler weighs the same as a single small storage crate. There are tons of water coolers in the office area alone, so you're gonna have a bunch of these just laying around empty in storage by the time you're entering Flat Hill, since you've gotta stay hydrated. And just by keeping an extra empty water cooler in your hotbar, where it weighs even less, you can plop a water cooler down anywhere you would otherwise have to do an elaborate sequence of events to unlock a door or whatever, and instead just hop on the water cooler to jump up to wherever you need to go, including portal worlds. We managed to bypass entire stealth sections of Flat Hill by just quickly throwing down a water cooler in a room where a conductor was patrolling and using it to hop up to higher levels and unlock doors before he saw us. Even if they break, most furniture items become grabbable objects when destroyed, and it's not like we're gonna run out of water coolers. I have like 30 of them back at the base. I have stolen all the water coolers in the office area because I hate small talk. The only real resistance we met during our entire romp through Flat Hill was this smaller version of the conductor that wanted to fight us. Lucky for us, unlike its larger brethren, it is very capable of dying. Unlucky for me, its bones did not make for a very good soup stock, but I did get an interesting set of armor out of it. We water cooler our way to the roof and grab all 3 of the power cells before jumping into a portal that puts us right back in the office complex. On the way out, we meet a couple fellow scientists, Abe and Janet, who tell us that there's a surface access tunnel in manufacturing and that they may have accidentally created an interdimensional containment breach before our little romp through Flat Hill. Accidents happen. We should look into that access tunnel though. This is a big win. We've got the power cell we need to jury-rig the forklift into opening up the way to manufacturing, plus 2 extras that we could make something nice out of. I guess it's nice that we saved that Grayson guy too. Sometimes he'll come around to the base and sell us things. Like bullets. We've also got these cool arcade cabinets to set up in our budding Fortress of Science. We've built out the living space by adding more storage and crafting spaces to it, and I've got a budding garden in the old control room. We've also taken some extra furniture from around the offices to make some improvised barricades, which are pretty effective at preventing the murder bots from wandering into the cafeteria at night. We've even put in some additional security measures like these giant fans of death at the entrance and in front of our radiation fridge to keep the pests from attacking it. If the fan blades don't get them, the long extension cords we had to lay across the floor will. There's one issue we're running into though. We're running out of water. This is a survival game and dehydration will debuff and eventually kill you if you neglect it. When is the last time you had a glass of water, dear viewer? We've nabbed every water cooler in the office complex and guzzled down all the water inside over the course of the days we've been trapped here. There are some alternatives such as soda. There's vending machines we can tap into with a few dollars that we found laying around the office, but right now we're little weaklings that can't shake stuff out of the vending machines for a freebie, and there are only so many dollar bills. There's fighting the robots, which still inexplicably have a bunch of sodas in them, but we're not nearly good enough at violence to do that on a regular basis. It was hard enough just to take down the 3 we needed to get the keypad hacker. That leaves us one option. Science. I take it upon myself to grab a bunch of the empty water coolers laying around the base, fill them up with the nasty fountain water in the lobby, and bring them back to base. We can drink this, but it will make us very sick. So we're going to use the power of science to boil all the nasty stuff out of the water. We get only 250 milliliters of drinkable water for every liter we boil, but with enough patience, determination, and willingness to risk spinal injuries lugging multiple water coolers back and forth from the fountain to the base, we now have a sustainable source of water. In the process of filtering all this water, though, a new problem has arisen. An unnatural fog has rolled into the facility, and that one guy from Flat Hill has followed us into GATE. This guy was bad enough when we were planning on encountering him back in Flat Hill, but now we can just find him out and about when we're trying to collect resources and not quite ready for a serious outing. Lucky for us, there's a button that purges the fog nearby the portal to Flat Hill that we can hit every time this fog rolls in. Fog is the first of many weather events that you can get, and it's the least harmful in and of itself. The Symphonists are a real threat at this stage of the game, but we can easily avoid them if we just make a beeline for the weather reset button and just running away if we see him. Other weather events are going to be much worse. Before we go out into manufacturing, it's time for some more science and im-simmy stuff. We've made these Chopinators, the death fans that keep the pests away from the radiation fridge. They're pretty dangerous, but we noticed something else. When Poe decided to volunteer to test out if the Chopinator was an instant kill, she discovered that for one, it is not, but it really hurts. And for another, she gained a bunch of fortitude experience from getting Chopinated. It turns out that Abiotic Factor follows the Kenshi rules for gaining experience and toughness. If you take damage, it counts. So just like in Kenshi, it's time to reinvent the peeler machine to power level our toughness in preparation for manufacturing. I set up a couple Chopinators in close proximity to each other, and then make another workbench with a proximity healer upgrade nearby. It doesn't heal us while we're taking damage, but thanks to the proximity healer, we can stand in the peeler machine getting our flesh annihilated for sweet, sweet experience, and then, once we're a hit away from death, we step away and the proxy healer kicks in, bringing us back to full health in the few seconds so we can do it again. A side note here, but we also found out that the proxy healer on the workbench has an absurd range. We put ours in the cafeteria in the starting area, but as far off as the cubicle farms in the offices, which is a good minute and a half walk away, and up another floor, it still heals us in the cubicle farms. This thing is massively overpowered. I hope they never nerf it. I love this thing. The peeler machine technique also benefits us by giving us multiple lacerations, which sounds bad at first until you realize that we can use that to power level our medical skills while we power level our fortitude. Feeling pretty confident after getting a few levels in fortitude, we head out to the manufacturing wing to look into that exit tunnel. Everything seems okay until holy crap, there are guys here that have guns! Okay, I have a gun, but it's just this dinky little pistol I swiped off the security office when we were exploring through the office complex from some guard who got pancaked during the initial containment breach. but there's a dude on top of the inner structure in manufacturing that has a machine gun emplacement trained on us. Those alien guys had the electroshock thingy that was pretty easy to avoid because it had a huge windup. But these guys have guns. You pull the trigger and whatever is in the general direction of the business end of the barrel is instantaneously dead. You can theoretically stealth your way around the shipping area, and I was able to do that during my time in early access, but that requires a lot of stealth and a lot of sneaking up to a guy, bopping them with whatever you've got, which isn't going to be nearly as effective as the weapon that they've got, like the shotguns and PDWs the Order soldiers are packing, so you're gonna find yourself leveling up your medicine skill a lot too, if you catch my drift. Lucky for us, the critical path is to take a little side route through some wrecked offices that circumvents the kill box the Order has set up. Oh, I should introduce you to our new antagonists now that we've seen them in person and alive. These soldiers are from a group called the Order. They're kind of like the GOC to our SCP Foundation. They believe that the Gate is goofing around with things that should not be goofed around with at a fundamental level, and rather than write a sternly worded tweet alleging you made some very angry phone calls, they prefer the method of storming any facility of ours they can find and smashing up anything we're experimenting on and massacring a few dozen scientists as a treat. The Order is the reason why the Cascade Facility is in the mass containment failure that we find ourselves trapped in, because they found a way in and broke some things they really should not have broken, like the device we are using to keep all the portals in the Cascade Facility stable. We'll talk about that more later though. What matters for now is that we're up against people who brought pump-action shotguns, automatic weapons, and high-powered sniper rifles to our spears cobbled together with office supplies fight, which is really rude. You know what's even more rude? We can't even use the guns we snatch off the Order soldiers we take down! They're all biometrically locked, and we presently do not have the means to crack that encryption. We can feasibly get it at this stage in the game, but that's going to require a whole lot of grinding our shooting and reloading skills to unlock. By the way, those are separate skills, and that'll give us a crafting recipe for a piece of armor that is literally carving up the arms of fallen Order soldiers and wearing them like big, greasy, elbow-length gloves that fool the biometric sensors on their guns. We're also getting a lot of skulls from these dudes, and I am disappointed that I cannot start constructing a skull throne.
Let me construct a skull throne, Deep Field. I want a skull throne.
Guns are bad. Correction. Guns that I don't have are bad, and all guns should belong to me. I was able to upgrade that dinky security pistol I found by taping a flashlight to it, because I guess my scientist doesn't have the gun skill to hold a pistol and a flashlight at the same time. We need more solutions to the guns that do not belong to me problem. The manufacturing wing has a whole lot of materials that are used for manufacturing stuff. Surprising, I know. We now have access to things like rebar for reinforcing wood, chains, and saw blades. The first solution is to make a new suit of armor because I'm tired of walking around with a filing cabinet over my chest. We steal a bunch of things from the workshops and now have a set of forge armor, which not only gives us a considerable defense increase as it's considered heavy armor, but also the set bonus gives us a high chance to have bullets get deflected off the plates. For a more proactive solution to those naughty Order soldiers, I have traded out the pipe cudgel I have fashioned for whenever my spear broke for a rebar sledgehammer that sets people on fire. I have also been using blunt objects enough to where I have learned that if I run at something going at a full sprint and then bonk them with a blunt object, I transfer all the kinetic energy of me running plus the blunt object directly into my target's skull. This is effective. But I need something that really puts the fear of the scientific method into these goons, and that's where the saw blades come in. Behold, the saw gun. I guess it's not really a gun though, as there's no explosive accelerated projectile. Whatever. This thing shoots saw blades at people, and if they don't hit people, the blades bounce around the room until they do. This is very effective against basically anything I point it at, but it comes with one important caveat. I too am people, and saw blades can potentially bounce into me. Between our runs back to the base to drop off my ever-increasing collection of skulls, we have an encounter with an entirely new entity, the Walking Bucks. Seeing as this thing somehow got past all of our security and just walked right up to me, this naturally activates my prey instincts, so I immediately tried to kill this thing. My bad, turns out the Walking Box is nice and will randomly appear just about anywhere in the GATE facility once you get into manufacturing whenever your inventory is at its limit, and there's a lot of collectible items laying around. I don't know exactly how it works, but I know these are like factors to it. I'm sorry about that, little guy. How about I let you carry all the skulls I find through manufacturing and we'll call it square. Between the Order soldiers roaming around, the aliens that are still present around the facility, and whatever is going on in that one mineshaft area with the bug dudes, we are having a hard time fighting our way through the manufacturing wing to make it to the service tunnel. But after a long, violent crawl through the access roads, we get to the service tunnel and it's caved in! God damn it! Lucky for us, there's a couple guys here that aren't trying to shoot us, and one of them even has a solution. A person from manufacturing known only as the blacksmith has holed up in his workshop, which is conveniently by the first of many inter-facility trams we can activate that will take us right back to the office complex. The blacksmith tells us that we need to find someone called Dr. Frake, who's rallying any survivors she can find. We find her, and she tells us that we can theoretically blast a path out of manufacturing and into the labs, where we have a better chance of getting out of here, or at least better equipping ourselves to survive, by overloading the old super collider that's been sitting in disrepair for a while now. Or, it could start a singularity, but then we'd have none of our problems anymore. Either way, turning this thing on is a way to progress. Oh, by the way, sorry I don't have footage for this. I was doing some mat farming, like, off camera and accidentally wandered into Frake's hideout. Repairing the collider isn't all that hard. We just need to gather up some materials for the blacksmith so he can get us what we need to repair the collider parts. The snag comes in that some of the things we need are literally not in the facility at all, and we're going to need to go to the next portal world to get them. Behold, the Forever Train! The Forever Train is an anomaly being maintained by GATE, which is a traditional steam train traveling across an endless stretch of railroad. The train must be consistently maintained, as while there is no need for brakes, as there is nothing ever in the way, there is no upper limit to the kinetic energy the train is building, and in this antiverse, if it were ever to derail, the force of the impact would be enough to shift-delete the entire cosmos. I'm talking like Secret Agent Wizard Boy levels of destruction, where there's no upper limit on how big you can make an explosive, nor an upper limit on how much force an explosion can have in-game. You should totally buy Secret Wizard Boy and the International Crime Syndicate, by the way. I love it. Back to Abiotic Factor though, the Order took one look at this train dimension and thought, yeah, it'd totally be a good idea to try and take this over and kill all the scientists maintaining it. Lucky for us, they weren't able to get to the guy shoveling the coal, so for now it's all good. We're here to steal the stuff on the train. Stuff like the silver cutlery, which we can turn into solder, which will help the blacksmith, or briefcases, which we turn into mobile healing stations. Those are very important to the late game. I also get more saw blades for my saw gun. We need to make it to the end of the train, brew up some solder in the same pots we cook our soup in, and trade it off to the blacksmith for the regulators we need. Then it's just a matter of retracing our steps through the manufacturing wing to install all the parts before heading back to the collider controls to risk tearing a hole in the fabric of space-time to make a very big boom. Well, a bigger hole in space-time than we've already got. It goes okay. Frake is pleased. We follow the newly opened path along the collider's pipes to find ourselves in the containment labs and witness Abe and Janet performing an operation on one of the little pest guys to try and domesticate them. The pests now shoot EMP blasts when they jump at you. Thanks, Abe. We are finally back in the containment labs, and a new area means new stuff to steal. The Containment Labs is a host to all sorts of fancy and weird things that we can make into fancier and weirder tools, like refined carbon, funny crystals from the anteverse, and the funny crystal juice that I have been told I am not allowed to drink and I cannot put it in my soup. Can't have fun these days. The Order dudes are here too, but they're getting absolutely slammed by the aliens who have brought bigger, nastier dudes that have gun arms. These guys are not nice and will flatline us in a whopping 30 seconds if we do not take them seriously. These are the Exor. We've met their smaller, more docile Exor monk counterparts in the offices, but the main Exor force does not play around with mild electric shocks. They just shoot you. However, if we can defeat them, we can take their arms and make an even more powerful soup that gives us a pretty strong buff. Oh yeah, the robots are here too, and they don't just wake up at night. If you cross into their no-no box at any time, they wake up, smack you upside the head, and then literally carry you off to jail. We've got things to do in here though. We can theoretically get out of here by going through the labs to security and then taking the security access elevator to the surface to freedom. But before we get into security, we're going to have to find a way to deal with the weird extra-dimensional crud over the big door that's supposed to keep all the stuff we've got in the labs inside the labs. In order to do that, we're going to have to enter the antiverse where this stuff came from to get the stuff that burns the crud away. And to get to the antiverse, we're going to have to get the stuff we need to power the gateway that gets us there by killing the really big, nasty thing we saw in the tutorial that broke containment. But before we can even do that, we're going to need to fight our way through the containment labs, gathering materials we need to upgrade our keypad hacker so that we can get into the higher security containment wing so we can enter another portal world which exits into a control room that we need to to disengage a lockdown in, where we also learn how to make the special tool that lets us harvest a certain research, which will allow us to overload the security lockdown on the door into the central control room, which is crawling with Order goons right now that are dug in like ticks, where we will then be able to override all the lockdowns in the lab, allowing us to access where the big nasty thing that broke containment is, get the funny goo from it, use the funny goo to activate the portal into the world where the crud came from, and then we get the other special goo that removes the crud, that opens the big door, and we can get into security and go on our merry way. You will need to remember all of that because there will be an exam later at an unspecified time. Holy moly, it took like 5 takes to record all that. The Containment Labs is also where you can really see the thematic influence of Abiotic Factor. Yes, this is very much inspired by the SCP Foundation, complete with containment cells, multiple classifications and safety ratings for everything locked up in here, and a lot of detailed log entries. Like a lot of detailed log entries. In my over 120-hour playthrough of this game, I did not nearly find them all, and I was looking. This isn't all just anomalies we've got in Containment, but also personnel files, reports on various locations both in and outside of our universe, and soup recipes. So many wonderful soup recipes. The amount of world building that has gone into this game is nuts. Just like in the Foundation though, all the things being contained aren't all just weird monsters or aliens. We've also got one of the single most important items in the game, the gravity cube, which you can turn into a trinket that dramatically lowers your personal gravity, which increases your jump height and blunts fall damage. A seemingly normal double-barreled shotgun that will be definitely handy later on, and some guy. This guy says his name is Dr. Khan, and he's trapped in this containment facility by accident, and if you can disable the lockdown, he'll help us get out of here. He's certainly more willing to help than Dr. Thule, who's holed himself up in a security booth by the big door, so I don't see any reason not to help this guy. We'll need to disable that lockdown anyway, because that's how we reset the security turrets that the Order has tampered with. We're gonna need those, or at least need them turned off, as they're presently shooting at us. For now though, I snag my shiny new shotgun and gravity cube, make sure I've got enough shells, and low gravity hop my way off to disable the security system. It's not all just pushing forward and inventing new things though. Every now and again, a group of people we've encountered will decide they're quite fed up with our antics and decide that they're going to take the antics to us. Hey man, this is our facility. You're the guys that are invading in the first place. This is like double invading. What matters here is that once you've hit a certain milestone, usually around first encountering a type of enemy, there is a chance that every night they are going to invade your base. You'll get a warning that it's gonna happen the day of, saying that the air feels strange, and then when it comes time, the GATE Cascade Facility's power shuts off and you'll get flavor text telling you what exactly is gonna try and destroy all your stuff. This is why we're able to build base defenses. We've already got a few Chopinators from our experiments in power leveling, but we can do better. We set up some barricades, and we have set them up in a way where they completely block off the entrance to our base, because we don't want people coming in. How do we come in and out ourselves? We put a ramp on the inside so we can just walk right out, and then on the outside, we place a couple of alien bounce pads we found around the offices. We place the Chopinators in front of the barricades and the bounce pads off to the side so we can get in. This works great, because the bounce pads don't just bounce players, but they bounce everything that touches them. If we ever need to use a cart to haul a lot of stuff, it'll bounce the cart. But what's even better is that the bounce pads are essentially death traps for anything trying to break in. Enemies will charge towards our crafting bench from a designated spawn point away from our base and attempt to destroy anything between them and the crafting bench. They see the barricades and run right at them because they are between them and the crafting bench and must be destroyed. They try to destroy them, but they get hit by the Chopinators, which not only damages them, but knocks them back onto the bounce pads. And while all these things being affected by the bounce pads, only player characters have air control. The result is that the enemies attacking us charge our base and then get juggled by the bounce pads and Chopinators until they're giblets. Nothing has been able to breach this defense by charging it, and anything that tries to attack at range gets zapped by this Tesla coil I built. Back in the labs, something's a little off. As we were entering the laboratories, there was a lot of warning signs about if we see something, say something, with a freaky looking outline of some kind of creature. We get a strange resource that I am calling Sin Juice from here on out, and aside from also getting the specs for an X-ray turret that does no immediate damage, nothing happens. At least to me. As we travel deeper into the labs, every now and again Poe starts screaming, saying that something's following her and that she can hear its weird little cries as it gets closer. I can't see a damn thing and just assume that maybe some of the soup she had gone bad. Whatever. Wait. It actually killed her. Then it starts coming after me. This is the Layak, or as I call it, the Sinner. It's from the flesh dimension and is invisible to all except the prey it is currently stalking. The Sinner tracks you while you're exploring. It tracks you in your base. It'll even track you in your sleep, and when it does, it will invade your dreaming minigame. You cannot kill the Sinner. I tried. It is immune to hammers, which personally offends me, as everything up until this point could be killed with hammers. There is no way to contain the Sinner, at least not for now, and the only way we can deal with it is to, for one, catch it and look directly at it. This will make it disappear for a few in-game hours, but it'll be back soon. The second way to scare off the Sinner is that if we want to deal with it properly, we set up one of those X-ray devices in our base that we saw the schematics for to zap the thing as soon as it approaches. It turns out that whatever it's made out of is especially weak to X-rays. Repelling the Sinner this way not only makes it leave for much longer, but it also drops an orb of sin juice. That's the solution for making sure we can all get a good night's sleep, and we can theoretically just make some of these X-ray guns, pack them up, and deploy them whenever we need to be away from the base for an extended period of time, but that's really inconvenient for being on the go and getting things done. We're going to need to figure out how to make this thing portable, because we need more sin juice to activate one of the doors later down the line, and we can't just wait for this thing to show up in the base every other day, because, well, actually we can do that, it'd just be really tedious and would suck. We've got more pressing matters though. We're running out of water again, and I don't want to boil like 2,000 pots of water. There were a few more water coolers in manufacturing, and even a whole tank of what looked like it could have been potable water in manufacturing, but that was a little too close to a giant pool of radioactive waste for my taste. Lucky for us, a new solution has came about. Now that we've collected all the carbon samples, we can use those to make a water filtration barrel that instantaneously filters icky doo-doo water as soon as we dump it in, rather than having to spend literal days boiling off the icky doo-doo in the water in all the pots we use to make soup. I load up all the water coolers we've acquired thus far into the Costco cart thingy we can make, and I take the thing over to the fountain into the office lobby. We then proceed to fill every last water cooler with the icky doo-doo water, load them all back up into the cart, and push the nearly half-ton of water and water cooler back to the base and over the barricade, and Poe is certainly helping. Helping me get a spinal injury! We set up our filter barrels and proceed to convert all of the icky doo-doo water into nice, clean water. We will never need to do this again. We now have all the water that we need for drinking, cooking, and cleaning for the foreseeable future. We have used science to solve hydration. Poe's got to head out and do some human resources things, and I've got some other things to do before Poe gets back. For one, I still got to open that door to the main control room so we can get on with it. And to do that, I'm going to need two things: sin juice and to go to the furniture store. In order to open the doors into the control room to override the lockdown to get to the Tarask. Wait, we already went over this. We don't need to do this again. We just gotta go to the portal world where a zombie apocalypse has happened, and the only way to gain access to what we need for the next step of the operation. The furniture store can be freaky if you come in unprepared, as once you start the process of powering up the elevator to get to the exit, zombies start spawning in and will not stop until you leave. Actually, once you hit that first switch, they will never stop spawning for the rest of the game. However, if you keep your head about you, you can scout the admittedly expansive furniture warehouse and use something like a deployable light fixture as a marker to help you find the power switches later on when you're activating them. And then you only start the process when you are absolutely ready to hit all the buttons because you know where they are and have scouted them. Absolutely ready also includes stealing everything that isn't bolted down, because there are a lot of unique items here, and that's not just furniture but also weapons and shields, including one you'll need to make an endgame weapon a few dozen more hours down the line. I throw the first switch and everything goes as smooth as can be. That's good because if you ever get hit by one of these zombies, you get infected, which is uncurable and eventually will just kill you. Bring a spear weapon or something with a lot of reach. Poe is still off to wherever human resources people go, and I'm on my way for a bit more after returning from the furniture store with all my new, fancy loot. And I decide to do some base upkeep. While grinding for mats is still grinding for mats, the way all the areas in Abiotic Factor are laid out make it a fun experience. You've got a good enough idea of where everything is, and it's nice to explore every nook and cranny of an area you used to struggle in and just steamroll all the enemies that used to give you so much trouble. I need more hearts and skulls for my collection of hearts and skulls. Everything's going fine until I hear an announcement over the PA that I wasn't expecting. The power was going out, but it's the middle of the day. And what the heck? My batteries have stopped charging. If anything, they're draining a lot faster than they would even at night. Okay, let's go out and see what's going on. What the hell is that? I think I'm gonna kill it. Yeah, independent of weather and raids, this thing, which I'm pretty sure shows up nowhere else, can just appear in the lobby and it slurps up all the power in the facility while its little minions steal your batteries. At least it's a big pinata of materials when I finally deal with it. Okay, weird distractions are done. Time to do some violence. We've been harvesting enough sin juice to open the doors into the control room, and more importantly, there is one benign entity in the containment zone. Sentient yellow paint. No, really, the game has fourth-walled the yellow paint phenomena into the game's canon as being a disembodied entity that helps people find their way in dangerous situations by using yellow paint. Do you remember what other entity we found in the containment labs? A shotgun! I've had all these shells burning a hole in my pocket for a while now, and these order guys seem like the perfect test subject. I put some sin juice in one of the doors, which rewards me with access to the lab offices, and also the schematics for a portable version of the X-ray turret, and I'm off to do some science on soft tissue of the dudes holding up our labs. I plow through the order soldiers with a little help from the yellow paint anomaly, and I reset the security system, which activates all the turrets, cleaning up whatever order soldiers are left in the area. I guess it also disabled the lockdowns too, because Dr. Khan got out and whoa! You stuck up on me there, buddy! Man, how fast did you start running once that door opened? Well, it's fine, I guess. The situation is under control, and it's enough for me to go fight the Tarrasque. This thing is a big guy, and thank goodness it's contained in a place where it can't get out. For now. I'm taking this as seriously as possible. I set up a small forward operating base nearby where the scientist is hanging out to keep an eye on the Tarrasque with gear, a battery charger, and some extra medical supplies, just in case. I get all my best gear, study up the Tarrasque weaknesses, and get in there ready for a fight. And I totally botched it. I hang in there for quite a long time, but I'm literally not hitting the thing in the right places and end up wasting a ton of ammo and healing items on hitting this thing where I don't do any real damage. I was so locked into whittling this thing down into its stun animation that I totally missed the obvious tells for the very obvious weak spot I was supposed to be hitting. Yeah, this is a little embarrassing. Like, we go back and kill it in less than a minute once I know what I'm supposed to be doing. Whatever. We've got the alien juice, and while the remains of the Tarrasque are too large to fit in my soup pot, I can make a cool hat out of him. Let's do this. After all that hubbub, we finally activate the portal and go through. Welcome to the Mycofields. All of the labs was just to get here for one crafting ingredient. But there's other stuff we can grab here too. We're gonna need protection first. Not so much from the radiation, there's not much of that there, but from the extreme heat. Lucky for us, we were just in manufacturing where they have plenty of heat-resistant hazard suits for us to borrow. They also have a nice fringe benefit of being fully enclosed, so that we won't fall victim to inhalation hazards, which there are plenty of here. We are literally in the mushroom hell dimension. That's a nice thing though, because there are mushrooms on all the doggy boys called peccaries here, which we can harvest and make into soup. Another recipe for my collection. More importantly, there are these little shy guys here. They don't even really have a health pool. You just hit them once and they die. The only stipulation is that you gotta sneak up on them or else they run into their little hidey holes. If we get them though, they drop their carapace, which when we combine with all the carbon we've been farming back in the labs, we can make into carbon plating, which is the basis for all the mid-game heavy armors and all sorts of stuff that can take a beating, including significantly larger and better storage boxes. Lucky for us, not only is carbon a very renewable resource thanks to matter conversion machines in the lab, but also portal worlds will almost entirely reset once an in-game week, with the exception of anything that you have placed yourself, because yes, you absolutely can build bases in portal worlds, and we will be definitely taking advantage of that in just a bit. What matters now is that we can indefinitely farm these little bugs for their carapaces and make a ton of useful stuff. We need other stuff from this place though. The main thing we came here for is the funny red goo that makes the mushroom hell so hot. There's a good 30 or so that we can get per reset of this world, and that's more than enough for our needs. We just need 10 of them for a thermal compound that we can make to dissolve the mushroom goo covering the door to security. There is some other mushroom goo we can dissolve in the labs too, but that's, while very important for my culinary needs, we can do off screen. I head back to the base and drop off my new mats, head back into the labs to play around with the matter converters, and oh god damn it, the power thing is back! Okay, I got all the stuff, I put the funny mixture together and put it on the door, and it opened right up. Whoa. That's kind of dramatic. Okay, security is supposed to be pretty intense, so I'll make sure that Poe's ready to get going and... Poe? Oh, maybe she's back at the base. I'll go check. Before we get into the spookies. I want to highlight something about the game itself. Abiotic Factor is a masterclass in level design, not just for the verticality and how every area not only feels like a very real place that people lived and worked in, and makes for a compelling dungeon exploration style of game, but on top of all that, Abiotic Factor has some of the best shortcuts and backdoors I've seen in a game of its size. Every major area in Abiotic Factor has an easily accessible backdoor back into the lobby area by the cafeteria where you'll most likely be setting up your main base. Most of them are pretty hard to miss, and despite a lot of these being way spread out, thanks to shortcuts and how major areas are placed radially from the lobby and offices, you're never going to have to take more than a couple minutes to get anywhere in the GATE Cascade Facility on foot. It just so happens that thanks to the ongoing crisis, you have to take a roundabout way to get to each area. Once you get there though, you can unlock the main door that leads back into this main lobby area, so you don't have to take the scenic route every time. This is fantastic for a survival game like Abiotic Factor, where you will be farming a lot of mats. There are a lot of survival games I love, like say Sons of the Forest, which are great in almost every aspect, except for that at times it will be very tedious to gather certain materials that are only found in certain places. Like say, when you need to use the 3D printers that are only in specific areas. Sons of the Forest helps mitigate this by having plenty of centralized locations to set up a base, but if you don't know where you should be setting up, that can cause problems down the line. Here, you should always set up here. This is the ideal location. Sons of the Forest also has easy to access golf carts that are available from the early game right off the bat that also charge on their own to act as a band-aid fix in case you accidentally put your base in a place that's out of the way from everything you need to do. But so does Abiotic Factor. Abiotic Factor even has a network of service roads for the vehicles that you unlock as you travel around the GATE Cascade Facility. There's golf carts, forklifts, and even cars with large storage spaces in them if you want to move a lot of stuff from one area to another relatively quickly. And there's even a sick stunt driving course you can find in security too. I only ever used cars once though, just to see how they handled, because the game is laid out so well that you can walk basically anywhere. And that's before we get into other methods of expedited travel, like jumping jetpacks, riding the pipelines like they were big, very high pressure water slides, and being able to build a whole network of teleporters. But before that, I've got one of my favorite items in the game. The personal teleporter, which will yoink you right to a selected workbench as long as you keep it charged. It's basically like an emergency escape hearthstone. It's excellent for getting out of situations that would otherwise kill you, or when you really need to use the bathroom. Okay, so Poe was not back at the base. This other lady was here though, and she had food stuff that I could trade with for her. That's nice. I have also retired my old saw gun by upcycling the thing into a base defense turret, because nothing quite says, "No solicitors please," like a circular saw blade being launched at freeway speeds towards any registered motion in a 270-degree radius. I should really figure out how to make a friend or foe system for my base defenses, as we keep getting zapped by the Tesla coils I set up, and I'm pretty sure that's bad for our cardiovascular systems. Maybe Poe went on ahead to the security ahead of me and we just missed each other. I head through the big, ominous door, follow the dubious trail of blood, go through the pipes filled with extra tangy air, and hey, who are you? Why are you dressed like that? Are you one of those Etsy witches I keep hearing about? I'm gonna call you the Etsy witch. The Etsy witch says a bunch of rather cryptic stuff about how if I stop here, nothing worse will happen to me. Well, if you're going through hell, holy moly, it's Dr. Khan. How do you keep sneaking up on me like that? I think I read something in a file about you saying you might be a little weird, but I can't remember exactly what it said. Dr. Khan seems nice enough and tells us that getting through security could be our way out of here because the surface elevator in security might still be powered. The only thing that's stopping us is that something we accidentally released is currently in security. There is an entity that creates a semi-permanent, unnatural darkness in any place it makes its domain, and wow. That's a whole lot of mangled security robots and blood. This is supposed to be the place where all the people who know how to use guns were supposed to be, so I think we're hosed when it comes to getting any sort of help from security. Rats, the elevator's totally busted. We're going to need to get through security's keypad doors to find our way deeper into the GATE facility through the Hydra plant into the reactor cores where, I don't know, we can overload a reactor so it blows a hole big enough in the facility to create a new roof we can get out of. Look, we've already risked one Armageddon blowing up the super collider. What is one more roll of the dice? It's slow going though, as security is really dark and, frankly, spooky. I've got my shoulder-mounted X-ray gun on me lighting the way, because the last thing I need is to encounter the Sinner while I'm finding my way through security. I think the Sinner is going to be the least of my problems though. This is Death. I'm sure we've got a fancy number designation for Death, but when I see this guy, I think Death. Death cannot be killed. You can make him go away for a bit if you get the drop on him with a high-powered light like the one I just so happened to bring, but he'll come back in a matter of seconds. Death will sneak up on you and put you in the spooky zone, and that's if he's feeling nice. If you try to fight him, he will just cut you into ribbons. Most enemies that inflict bleed will just give you a normal wound that can be patched up with any old bandage. Death has scythe hands, and they will give you severe lacerations which will require multiple layers of bandaging to stop you from bleeding out in a matter of seconds. And let me tell you how I bully Death. There will be a single object in the area where you first encounter Death called Night Essence. It is not only important for making a few key items that will get us out of here, but when you pick it up, you will get the inspiration for an energy pistol. Oh wow, I just realized I never talked about crafting an Abiotic Factor. Anytime you pick up an item in-game that's part of a recipe you don't know yet, you get the option to ideate on a new invention based on the things you found. There's no penalty for picking the wrong things, and it will keep what you got right in the next tries until you get it. Better yet, once you've invented something, you can share those invention ideas with your fellow scientists in-game so that they don't have to do it themselves and everyone is capable of crafting whatever they need for the next area. It's great for when you've got people joining later in a save file and need to get them up to speed. I personally really like this, but if you think this sounds tedious or just not like your thing, you can straight up disable this and the whole minigame in your game settings, and you just automatically get the new invention when you pick up a new item in the schematic. If you somehow can't put two and two together of getting a new drop off a bad guy and then immediately getting a new invention idea that's a specialized kind of weapon, there is also this exposed laser beam on the way to the area you need to go to get out of security. It's too high to harm you, but just high enough to where it'll smack Death right in its face. Death is weak to lasers. They won't kill him, but if you hit him enough times with a laser, he'll go away for a bit and leave you in peace. Like 30 seconds at most, and then it's going to take more than a single zap to get him. I think it depends on if Death has detected you or not, and you're only going to get the jump on him once. I guess we should explain the mechanics of Death. Death is functionally blind, or at least he does not react to light. You can shine a normal flashlight right on him and he won't notice at all. He is very sensitive to sound though. That doesn't sound too bad at first, just quietly sneak through the area, making sure not to run near Death or outright bump into him, and you can stealth your way through it. One problem with that. We need to upgrade our keypad hacker, and we're going to have to break open a whole lot of crates to get the stuff we need to upgrade it. We have our shiny new energy pistol, right? Well, there's a snag. Our energy pistol is the weaker version of this weapon, and we won't be able to upgrade it until much later on. And presently, it takes quite a few shots, even with getting the drop on Death to make him go away. There's a very finite amount of shots we can get out of this thing before we have to take it to a charging station. Maybe 2 or 3 banishments of Death if we get the drop on him. Bad news about that. Whatever unnatural darkness Death is filling this place with has made all the charging stations disappear. Good news. There's this cute little wind-up crank on the laser pistol that lets us reload it slowly but surely. Bad news about that though, it makes a lot of noise when we do that. Now that I write this all out, I realize that security functions very much like a microcosm of Amnesia the Bunker, which is a very good spooky immersive sim, and if you haven't played it, you should. However, Jimbo Jones in the Bunker is a lot less bullyable than Death. It's 10th, but eventually we get enough materials to upgrade our keypad hacker and move deeper into security. There's something else we gotta do to get out of here. We have to go into the spooky zone on purpose. The Etsy Witch is here, but that's less important. I guess that Death will just leave the souls of people he steals here? We're in the spooky zone because for one, it's a free source of spooky juice, and for another, we have to break these things in order to remove the spooky residue on some of the doors so we can keep moving through security. It's nothing too dangerous because ironically the one place in security that Death won't chase you is in the spooky zone that he sends you to. And you can leave at any time by just going through the main doorway here, which will plop you right back into the security department's lobby, right by the path to the main facility lobby. There's also some extra boxes here in the spooky zone that we can smack as loud as we want without having to worry about Death since he just won't show up. After a lot of wandering around and pressing buttons, I eventually find the spooky throne and smash the last thingy, which is a scientific term, and blast the door open to Hydra Plant. There's one more thing we gotta do before we head out though. Back in the labs, there was an incomplete portal device that required some stuff that we just didn't have access to when we first entered. The death juice and some weird roots. We have all the stuff now thanks to a trip to the spooky zone, and the portal opens right up. We find ourselves in a Salem-style town of witch hunters. Welcome to Canaan. Everyone here thinks you're a witch and will attempt to kill you on sight. Shame they brought pitchforks and torches to a gunfight. I have a new, extra violent hammer I want to try out. I can't strap bombs to the front of this one like I could with the last one, but it hits really, really hard regardless. I also have an SMG I took apart and put back together to trick the biometrics, but I don't use that as much as I save it for more serious threats. I march right into the outskirts of town, introducing myself to the locals with my boomstick, which is highly effective, albeit a bit wasteful, so I start maining my carbon pickaxe. I help myself to any stray crops they have out, like the corn, pumpkins, and apples, which can only be found here, and make my way to the town gates. People in the town of Canaan are not happy to see me. I'm not sure if they still think I'm a witch, or if that they don't like that I am presently covered in the blood of their neighbors. It feels warm, like soup. I slaughter my way through the town guard until I come across a local fisherman who doesn't immediately try to kill me, and turns out he's actually one of the scientists that got stranded here while studying the funny tree guys while the Order attacked GATE, and apparently we can't go back now because the Order closed the exit portal to this place. I ask another scientist posing as a witch in the swamp filled with dudes that want to kill you, who's got a plan. I just have to storm the town's community center, defeat their leader, and steal his cool rock. After a bit of potential HOA violations, I break up the funny rock into pieces small enough that I can shove it into the portal machine and we can go home now. I get funny dreams when I have the rock on my person when I sleep though. The dreams take me to strange places and tell me things, secrets, truth about the facade of reality, and new soup recipes. This will be great for my science. The single most powerful thing in Abiotic Factor is soup. Soup gives us strength. Soup lets us take the power of our enemies by consuming them. Soup keeps us fed and hydrated at the same time. Soup is the nutritionally perfect food. Half of our base is devoted to soup, and the soup has let us push deeper into the GATE Cascade Facility and closer to freedom. 5 years ago, I created a soup that gave me great power, and I need that power again to escape this facility. It is time for Big Soup! Okay, we're doing this one from scratch, starting with the stock. Go get some rotisserie chickens. Getting them at Costco is somehow cheaper than just buying carcasses in bulk, and they come already roasted, so we don't have to do that step. Now, you might see here that I have left the tops of the chicken bags open. This is absolutely on purpose. I used to work at a store deli where picking chickens was done every night, straight out from under the heat lamps, where they refused to give us heat-resistant gloves or even wait an hour or so for the chicken to cool off because my labor costs. It's a miracle I have no permanent damage on my fingers. If something is literally steaming hot on the outside, imagine how hot it is on the inside. Take the time and wait for these to cool off. Once you bring your birds home, give them, say, no less than 30 minutes to cool off, but no more than an hour so that we avoid being in the temperate danger zone for too long. After that, if you've never picked chicken before, it's really easy once you're not burning yourself. We want to get as much of the carcass as possible, so what we're going to do is flip the bird over onto its front and use a pair of sturdy kitchen shears to cut out the spine going from tail to neck each way. This is also having the happy benefit of getting all the twine out of the way. Set that twine aside in a place where you can keep track of it all and make sure it gets thrown away. If you have animals, pieces of twine that are drenched in yummy chicken fat can end up being a very expensive vet bill, as long foreign bodies are serious business. Back to the rest of the bird though. We're going to take off the leg quarters, which you should be able to just pull right off, and then if there's a bit of rib cage on the thigh, that also comes off with a little twist. Set the quarters aside, and then everything else goes back into the bag. We're going to use our hands to pop off the drumettes and wings before using a kitchen knife to go down the breastbone and separate the breast from the rest of the carcass. The drumettes, wings, and everything that is not breast meat or leg quarters goes back into the bag, and you can do what you like with the meat. I opted to use it for meal prep, and with the 10 for 10 deal on canned beans and how cheap rice is, I can make a chicken, beans, and rice meal prep that easily breaks the 100 grams of protein barrier for $3 a portion. Oh yeah, don't get sad if you miss the meat off the breastbone or elsewhere. It's just going to end up adding more flavor to the stock. In my experience, you can consolidate your picked chickens into 3 carcasses per bag, possibly even 4 or 5, but I didn't want to push it. If you're not going to immediately make the stock, toss your scrap bags into the freezer and then move them into the freezer the night before you're gonna make it. Okay, stock time. Now, we need to be very specific about how much water we put in here because we have a lot more stuff we're going to add and only so much space in our pot. We need to make sure that there's at least 2 quarts of volume later on when we add the roux in our 14-quart pot. So don't go past 12. So we're going to measure out 9 quarts of filtered water. 2 gallons plus an extra quart to account for what will be lost during skimming and just having it boil off. And then we're going to put everything in. The carcasses, onions, carrots, celery, a whole lot of salt, several bulbs of garlic, dried parsley and oregano, a few bay leaves, and whole peppercorns. I like to season my stock as well as this final product. Now, we're going to turn this up to high heat to get this through a boil and wait. This is going to take quite a while as the sheer mass of what we're trying to heat up. Start getting some other things done while that comes out to heat, and then once it's at a boil, lower the heat until it's at a bare simmer and just let that go for 3 to 4 hours. 4 to 6 if you can get away with it. There's plenty of stuff you can do in the meantime. Just make sure to give this a stir every few minutes and it'll come out great. First order of business is to get the oven ready at 400 degrees of freedom heat units or 205 funny baguette units and get those pork bellies ready to go. The previous iteration of
Big Soup.
used 3 pounds of bacon. That is no longer sufficient. I have here a Costco pack of nearly 6 pounds of pork belly, which we are going to use the fatty flavor for our
Big Soup.
We're going to get these out onto a meat-safe cutting board. Do not commingle your cutting boards. Lay them out, and we're going to season them with garlic powder, paprika, and fresh cracked pepper. We are not salting these as there is already a ton of salt going into the stock and the final soup itself, plus we don't want these to lose any moisture if we can get away with it. Now, we're going to lightly oil a parchment-lined baking sheet, lay all the pork belly strips spiked side down, and then we are going to season the upright side before adding a bit of oil on top so they don't crisp up too fast. I ended up needing 2 full sheet trays to make sure nothing overlapped, and these are going to be in the oven for a total of 60 minutes, 30 on each side. Halfway through, you're going to want to take all these out, use a large bowl to carefully drain out all the grease that's pooling in the pan, and then flip them over. 2 mistakes I made here that I'm going to warn you against are 1, resist the urge to turn up the heat on the second half. I did it and it did not end well for me, but lucky for me, only a handful of my pork belly strips were unusable. 2, make sure that you rotate your sheet trays so that neither tray stays on the same rack the whole time. I found that my bottom rack cooked a lot faster than my top, and while my top rack was almost perfect, albeit a little undercooked, my bottom rack was overdone, with a few strips not even being feedable to a dog I do not have. Once all the strips are done, be sure to remove them all to a wire rack with another sheet pan underneath to drain and cool, and then after about 30 minutes of resting, cut the strips into large chunks, reserve to a bowl, cover, and put in the fridge until it's time to put everything together, as we have several more hours before our stock is done. Now would be a good time to do anything else associated with your soup, like start for bread, like if you want to do a bread bowl, clean up a bit, as this cook requires me to run my dishwasher 3 times, and get potatoes peeled and veggies cut. You're going to want 3 bowls for your potatoes. 2 partially filled with water to keep the peeled and diced potatoes from oxygenating, and then 1 for all the peeled skins that you're going to accumulate, as otherwise that's going to get out of hand fast. I used golden potatoes for this iteration of
Big Soup,
which tasted great, and the only reason I didn't use russet like I did last time is because I didn't have any at the store. I kind of wish they did though, because these guys are nice, but they're a pain to peel. Now chop up some celery and onion, clean up some more, and do anything else you need to do while the stock cooks down. You've been remembering to stir that, right? Okay, time to make this stock something we can make a soup in. First order of business is to skim. Don't worry about losing too much liquid here, that's why we intentionally added an extra quart of water. Turn the heat down until the stock is barely moving at all and has settled a bit. Then use a ladle to gently press down on the surface of the soup until it just starts getting liquid into it. Go slowly now. We just want to focus on getting all the fat and other scum that's lighter than the water and therefore sits at the top of the soup. And then, once we spoon that all out, reserve it to a small bowl. Once all the scum and fat that we can reasonably remove from the top of the soup is gone, we're going to start getting rid of all the solids here. How that's going to work is we're going to get a smaller pot and put a pasta strainer over the top of it. What we're going to do next is we're going to start scooping out the solids with a kitchen spider, holding it over the pot for a few seconds to get the bulk of the stock back into the main pot, and then transferring the solids to the pasta strainer over the smaller pot. This way, all the extra stock that's in the solids will drain through the strainer into the secondary pot. Once the strainer is full, press it down to squeeze every last drop of that stock out, and then dump the solids somewhere else and start over. Once you're almost out of solids, just pour whatever's left from the big pot into the strainer. Then wash out your big pot, and then once the last of the liquid is out of the strainer in the smaller pot, remove it, dump the rest of your solids, and pour your good-to-go stock back into your main pot. Oh, a fun fact, this smaller pot was the original pot for big soup. Okay, soup time. Drain the water from your potatoes and get them in there with the celery, diced onion, some more herbs, and your pork. Then, once it's up to a medium and lightly boiling heat, we are going to let that go for 30 minutes to an hour. Don't worry about if you don't have quite the space you need to the reserve for the roux, it'll work itself out soon. We're basically just softening up the potatoes and letting the flavors commingle. Once that time has passed, bring it back down to a bare simmer because we're going to skim the soup again before mixing in the roux. We've done this before. Just get all that extra gunk and solids off the top and put it somewhere else. Now for the roux, we're just going to get this little baby pot and throw a full brick of Kerrygold in there and let that melt up. Once it's a liquid, start sifting in flour, whisking to incorporate until we've got a thick solid on our hands. Then we're going to add the cream. Gradually adding this heavy whipping cream, a half gallon in total, keep whisking in that together until you've got an absurdly thick roux, and then add in some spices for more flavors. Do not forget the salt. Home stretch, we're almost at big soup. Now just pour your extra thick roux into the main pot, give it a stir until everything's incorporated, and finally, take a hand blender and go to town on that thing. Behold, big soup. It yields 20 24-ounce little baby servings, or about 16 ideally sized 32-ounce 1-quart servings served in a whole loaf of bread, hollowed out into a bowl. Do not forget to add the cheese on top. Big soup is the ultimate source of power, and if you can survive the ordeal to make it, you will be rewarded with that power. In 2 weeks worth of soup, it took 8.5 hours to go from getting everything out of my fridge to putting the extra portions away, and the day I did this, I burned nearly 5,000 calories from physical activity. And remember, we did a lot of the prep work earlier in the week, like picking the chickens. If you too want to make big soup, the full recipe is on my Patreon, complete with an attempt at nutrition facts. I cannot emphasize enough that your support makes these videos and these ridiculous cooking segments possible. This big soup has been the single most expensive cooking segment I've done at about $120 in ingredient costs, but I feel good about just how many meals we've yielded off this thing. Don't forget that we made those meal preps in the process of getting the bones for the stock. There are current bottlenecks in making this soup any bigger, but with your help on the Patreon or buying me a coffee, if recurring subscriptions are for you, we can get an outdoor rig and make even bigger soups. So, lucky for us, the door from security into the Hydra plant is in a hallway that also has a back door into the cubicle farms of the office sector, which is a very short walk back to the base. Even better, once we're at the entrance of the Hydra plant proper, there's a tram we can activate that will take us right back to the main lobby of GATE. So we don't even have to go through all the entrance tunnels into the plant, meaning we don't get scared by Dr. Khan again. How does this guy just keep showing up like this? Regardless, the order seems to be taking us seriously now because the first thing we're met with once we're in the Hydra plant proper is a guy warning us, hey, don't run out in the open. There's a sniper. And then immediately getting our HP chunked off by a sniper the moment we move away from cover. We've seen snipers before back in the manufacturing wing, but they were at a severe disadvantage against us because they were often in very close quarters with us where their big rifles were unwieldy. Out here in the big open Hydra plant, where we can't even see where they're shooting at us from, they've got us dead to rights. With enough determination, we're able to storm through the operations building, clear out the ordered goons that were sieging the control room, and meet up with the survivors from GATE. They're saying that we need to restart the dam, which will require us to do a bunch of stuff that, Okay, I was kind of zoning out, but at this point I know the drill. We gotta find a bunch of materials that are exclusive to this area, make the next tier of keypad hacker, go into the places with a new keypad hacker, and build some things that will activate some other things. I'm more interested in the stuff we can make with the new materials here, like the long jump pack, the Cascade armor set, and the larger garden plots with reinforced pipes. What's really got my attention though is that our keypad hacker is now at level 5, and there was a level 5 door back in the labs we couldn't access previously. Let's go check that out. So I double back to the labs after making my shiny new level 5 keypad hacker and see what's inside that one room. An arcade cabinet? And I can't steal it? Well, I can't steal the rug, so I end up doing that. We can, however, go inside of the arcade cabinet and enter the world of Space Queen. We're in a video game, It's really cute. You get extra low gravity and double jumps, you can hop around to the bad guys and they drop spicy pepper power-ups that keep you from freezing in this ice level, and you can run around collecting coins. We can keep the coins after we leave too. The coins and the magical crowns we grab from here can be broken down into digital ore, which we can combine with the black gunk infesting Space Queen, giving us digital gold. Digital gold, while not needed for any major quest items as Space Queen is an entirely optional area, it is, however, a key component of one of the best suits of armor in the game, a suite of endgame weapons, and the best battery you can get, and a few totems that will negate invasions. Oh yeah, invasions have been happening a lot lately, and I guess it's okay because it's good for material gathering, like when the materials come to you. So if you're noticing now, we aren't really talking about the Hydra plant a lot during a chapter about the Hydra plant because, well, I got a little carried away farming mats between streams and I accidentally did all the objectives in order to farm more materials. Like, I did the whole dang thing. My bad. Sorry for forgetting to record all the cool fights with the artillery robots, the giant X-Ors, and all the stuff in Hydra plant. There was some stuff that we filmed in Hydra plant though, like Voussois. I think that's how you say that. The bulk of Hydra plant is spent trying to find materials for a diving suit that drastically improves your swim speed as well as giving you a few solid minutes of underwater time, which will allow you to avoid Mr. Fish in the Hydra plant reservoir and swim through a complex network of underwater tunnels that will lead you to a special control tower where you get a key resource that will let you upgrade your keypad hacker and do literally everything else we need to do in Hydra plant. That sounds really tedious and convoluted though, so I just jumped. One of the new modes of travel you get early in the Hydra plant is the long jump pack, a precursor to the jetpack and all around really good at letting you cross large gaps. The long jump pack is not flying, it's jumping, but that's exactly what we want. Jumping is affected by player gravity, meaning the gravity cube trinket acts as an enormous multiplier. But wait, there's more. There's also that set of armor we fashioned out of the corpses of those guys from Flat Hill that when combined with the fog lantern trinket we can trade with that one guy for, gives us an additional gravity reduction plus a stamina boost, meaning we can cross basically any distance with our jump pack, including the large gap between the control tower where we get those things and the nearest part of Hydra plant. We don't even need the Maestro armor set and the trinket that comes with it if we're willing to walk off a couple broken legs. We do this not only because that means we don't have to do all that BS to get the photon receptors that we need, but also because the room that they're in has an optional portal world, Voussois, which is a goldmine for high-end gears, material, and violence. Poe's back, and we're gonna hit Voussois again now that she's geared up. I do the jump pack run to show her how it's done and...
Alright, hold on. Alright, let me see if I can do this. Alright, so... Alright. This is scary. Okay, so... This is so
Alright,
scary.
looks good.
Oh, no!
Oh dear. Okay, I won't lie, this entire segment was a setup for this moment. Well, it's okay because Mr. Fish did not eat her. Even after that little oopsie, we still have a great time flattening Order Specialists in Voussois Outpost, and now we have full sets of high protection rating armor that also has the benefit of giving us a lot of cold resistance, which is going to be very important later on. Now that the gang's back together, we need to do some science, some serious science. We have developed an advanced waste management system that uses a laser power to portal away waste from maximum sanitation. However, this advancement in bowel moving technology has led us to ask a new question. Where does it all go? Any lesser scientists would just write this off as disintegration, but we've got a can-do attitude here at GATE, and a coffee machine in our base. We've got a lot of dollar bills we've collected off the remains off those Order soldiers, and the will to see what happens. We are learning so much here. We learned that it takes 5 coffees to go from empty bowels to needing to use the bathroom again in-game. We learned that there is no upper limit on how many coffees you can buy from that little machine in the break room that you cannot deconstruct. We learned just how far the screams from the cafeteria carry into the rest of GATE. And after many, many attempts, I am finally whisked away to where all the poo-poo goes. It's even more beautiful in person. Wait, if I can just get in the, wait, no, take me back, take me back! Well, after our failure, we still managed to restart the Hydra plant, and now we can access the reactors. Geez, what are we doing here that requires so much power that we need an entire Hydra plant? Like, how many different, reactors here? And we still gotta kill the lights at 9 p.m. every night. It's probably above my pay grade, and I don't want to think about it anyway. The fringe benefits of starting up the dam are now that all the various pipes throughout the facility work, which gives us even more means of fast travel. So on top of just having a lot of great shortcuts on foot, jumping around like we do now, boosting cars to drive around access roads or through departments, and the tram system, we can now use these pipes to instantly zip us from department to department, including one that conveniently plops us right into our base. This isn't even all of the methods we will get for fast travel in the game. We head out to the one that doesn't lead anywhere we've been before, and we run into Abe and Janet again, where Janet is trying to talk Abe down from a submarine. The Etsy witch is back too. She's just showing up wherever we get stuff done to speak in riddles. Do you think if we buy a tarot reading, she'll stop following us around? The main benefit of this is one of these pipes leads to a path to the reactor core, but first we gotta get to the entryway area that's been filled with funny glowing mushrooms. I never drew stuff like this in my notebook growing up, so I don't care much for these. A nice robot tells us that a portal nearby has something that we'll need to clear this stuff right up and get into the reactor cores proper. Well, would you look at that? We're in the homeworld of those guys that keep showing up and trying to kill us. How the tables have turned. I massacre my way through the Exor base, only encountering any meaningful resistance against the specialists with lightning staffs that teleport around really fast. They eventually die like everyone else though. Exorcha has some great stuff in it, like that special ore that we can use to make the endgame armor, those lightning staffs, more furniture to steal, and lots of new things to put into soup. So that stone I found in Canaan has been helping me a lot lately. Even though I broke it into smaller pieces to get out of Canaan, it's still telling me all sorts of useful things. First, I realized that if I graft it onto my weapons, it'll make them hit harder and do a special kind of damage. It's like fire, except it can't be put out normally, and some things that resist fire don't resist this. Even though I've got much stronger melee weapons now, I always keep at least one lodestone weapon on me. The other thing I learned from it was how to make a very special knife. The knife is perfect. It never gets dull. It never breaks, and the best thing of all is that it never wastes anything of what it cuts. I'm getting so much meat for soup here, my cooking skill is just flying through the roof. I've got ovens now. I used the funny evil wood from Canaan to make a set of 4-ring burner stoves for more soup, and my food is now much more nutritious than it ever was before. Maybe it's because my knife wastes nothing. And we sure do have a lot of meat here in Exorcha. Poe and I romp our way through the Exor base until there's one guy that we just can't kill for some reason, telling us that we're screwed. But last I checked, I was the one standing atop a literal pile of my enemies, not him. I grab the funny goo that's supposed to fix our mushroom problem and duck out of the convenient exit portal that... Hey, this isn't the GATE Cascade Facility. Where am I? What is this? What is that? I want to kill it and put it in my soup. Get over here. Hey, wait, where'd it go? I was going to kill that. It was mine. Stupid gatekeepers ruining everything. We get into the reactors and now we have a new mission. Go after the gatekeepers at house and repaint all their walls because they stole that thing from me. Dr. Khan tells me that the gatekeepers are in some sort of scorched earth contingency plan and are now trying to make sure as little of this facility gets out as possible. And the stone tells me that in order to get them, I will need to reactivate the reactors by making and replacing key parts that the gatekeepers intentionally broke in their attempt to do their scorched earth thing on this whole facility. This is officially the big leagues. We aren't fighting normal Exors or Order goons anymore. While there are still a few pockets of Order soldiers holding out as they've realized they are in way over their head, this is the first and last line of defense that the gatekeepers have set up, so we're dealing with them now. The Exors have been heavily mutated by whatever we're using to run these reactors, and now the pests will straight up explode if they hit us, and normal Exors are now giant hulking radiation beasts that can jump 50 meters and have radioactive blood. I am going to need some of that blood, and not just for my soup. Why haven't these monsters proliferated into the rest of the facility and stopped our adventure before it could start? Well, that'd be the gatekeepers, which are the only things scarier than these monsters. I'm not really sure if the gatekeepers were founded to be the protectors of our research and the things we keep for study, or if it was the other way around, and that they've always been here to keep the unexplainable out of sight, and we just so happen to come along to do research for them. The rank and file gatekeeper is leagues above anything the Order has, carrying an advanced assault rifle, which might be powered by magic based on some of the stuff gatekeepers drop. A recharging shield generator is standard issue among all soldiers, and being psychically active is the bare minimum for being scouted for the gatekeepers. They can also do sick tactical rolls. I, however, have a knife that tells me the most efficient ways to use it, and a hammer made out of what I have deemed to be holy fire. These guys don't concern me though, it's the Mystagogs that do. Mystagogs are psychically adept members of gatekeepers who don't even bother with firearms or even walking on the ground because they're so psychically powerful they can just shoot fire out of their hands and manifest a shield around themselves. They also all come with a little laser buddy who's good at hitting you from across the map, and if you try to get close, they will literally chokeslam you with psychic energy. Here's one of the Mystagogs 1v1ing a giant radioactive Exor and winning, and then even after he was softened up by that fight, I could just barely beat him even after depleting my stock of lodestone-infused saw blades. There's also the Chieftains, which are like the Gatekeeper soldiers, but worse, but none of them compared to the real threat among the Gatekeepers. Meet John Warhammer! John Warhammer is the size of one of those irradiated Exors in his suit of power armor, and wields a machine gun normally found in emplacements like it was a water pistol. For legal reasons, John Warhammer cannot use his bolter in-game. He was one of the beefiest health pools in this entire game for a standard enemy and a full body shield to match it. We first meet John Warhammer as he sits atop a cooling tower, as he has converted one of the reactor buildings into a fortified position to siege and take back for the other two from the entrenched alien presence, and he is flanked by two of the artillery security bots. If I had to guess, this makes him a loyalist breakaway from the Iron Warriors, or possibly an unnumbered son who will be put into an Ultramarine successor chapter that will basically be the Iron Warriors in a coat of blue paint, because Papa Smurf wants Ultramar back. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the security bots now have artillery configurations that we saw back in the Hydra plant. As long as this video is, there's actually a ton of stuff I'm not showing you, just because there is so much stuff to see and explore in this game. Some examples include the conductors breaking out into our world, the funny bug zone, and the elaborate series of steps you need to take and grow eggs on your farm. And no, that is not me misspeaking. John Warhammer wants to battle, and you know what? I think we'll play along with the bit.
Scream! Scream for me, Iris! Scream out to the void and let the silence of your corpse on his throne shatter your truth! Scream, because even if your so-called God won't hear it, mine will, and they smile upon me as I send you to them.
Whew. This ever-chosen candidate stuff is hard work. I think we need an extra set of hands or two. It's time for the intern arc. That's right, after getting so far into the depths of the GATE Cascade Facility, we've decided that 2 sets of hands just aren't enough, and we're taking on an intern. Meet our new little guy. He's quite excited to gain vital experience with us in science, technology, manufacturing, and the practical applications of science and technology and manufacturing, also known as violence. Our intern is very excited to get going, and I slap an extra set of reactor armor onto him so the little guy doesn't keel over from radiation poisoning before we can get to the good stuff. The intern certainly has spirit, but he's having a hard time letting go of the table leg he found, so he's not nearly as effective as he should be. There ends up being a few accidents as a result of this, where I have to find a new file an incident report. The intern is totally fine, trust me. The intern learns fast. He's picking fights. He's finding crafting materials. He's missing the stairs and falling to his incident report. We're doing our best to educate the intern on all the things he needs to know on how to become a proper member of the science team, like getting more coffee to aid in the production of fertilizer for components, and ethical dilemmas, like the trolley problem. Ah crap, he still had that expensive suit of armor on him when we did that. Oh yeah, we gotta fix the reactors. For that, we're gonna need the super alloys, which require that funny ore, the carapace of one of the radioactive pests, radioactive extra blood, and arcane scraps. Nothing we can't scrounge up, and we only need 3, so everything else gets to go into making a new set of reactor armor. We don't even need that many, as there are only 2 of the 4 areas we've got to check that are in need of replacement parts to fix, and the rest is just turning the things back on. First one's done real quick in the main offices where we saw the gatekeepers infighting with the aliens, and whoa! Backing away slowly. We don't have time for this. And then we go to the mist reactor, which is admittedly labyrinthine and full of security bots that are now extra violent and shooting funny goo at us, but on the bright side, we're farming plenty of mats along the way. We already hit the Cloud Reactor where we fought John Warhammer, and that just leaves the Gale Reactor, which is highly recommended that you have at least one form of flight here unless you want to end up like this guy over here and have to build a huge bridge to get to the nearest accessible point on foot, as the tram stop there has been destroyed. You can actually do that if you really want to, it's just very tedious and resource intensive. The Gale Reactor is crawling with gatekeepers, as it seems that they're likely massing up there to try and head off a push by the Order to get in. I don't even know why the Order wants to mess around with this reactor, but they're not doing a very good job. Oh yeah, the Etsy Witch is here again, and her band of merry guys. I guess they're just sort of hanging out between reactors. Maybe the aura's good or whatever. The Gale Reactor is the only one with a real challenge among these, as there's a protracted startup sequence that essentially is a wave defense involving the biggest and nastiest of the gatekeepers, and a lot of them. You do get some security turrets, like back in the labs, and you're going to need all the help you can get. Heck, it's recommended by some guides to try and set up base defenses here, which I did not do because I'm doing this violence for the love of the game. At one point, death itself straight up shows up, but I have upgraded my laser guns, so now it's just farming more materials to me. We get to the Gale Reactor, and with that, we can enter the big portal to the Gatekeeper holdout, and honestly, I don't know why we need to go here. I just want to kill more of these guys. Welcome to Shadowgate, where... Hey, what the heck are you doing here? Whatever. I crave violence. Dr. Khan mentions all the gatekeepers are using barriers which we'll have to find a way to deal with, and so far my plan is to deal with them the same way I've always dealt with them in the past. Hit them until they fall down and don't get up. We gotta make our way to the Shadowgate facility, get in, kill everything that moves, and I'm sure that'll move things along. Our first hurdle is this new gatekeeper enemy that will easily wreck us if we let them live for too long. Witches. These aren't like the Etsy Witch, more like the Temu Witches or the Fiverr Witches. Let's go with Fiverr Witches. The Fiverr Witches have a barrier like the rest of the gatekeepers, jetpacks, and shotguns, which is a really effective combination when it comes to closing gaps and dealing a lot of damage fast. They also have a psychotic laugh that annoys me. There's also a lot of these Fiverr Witches, and we gotta deal with them all on the way to the fortress, and on top of that, there's plenty of rank and file gatekeeper soldiers roaming around too. We get through the woods and onto the approach to the base itself, where we are met with a warm welcome of multiple machine gun emplacements tearing us to shreds as soon as we're in their line of sight. We get shredded. Like, burn through all our bandages before we even make it to the walls level of shredded. And then it happens. We get to the outer barriers that are protecting the facility itself. These are seemingly beefed up versions of what the gatekeepers have on their persons as shield generators, and they are completely invincible. You can't go around them, even if you had a jetpack, because jetpack items are disabled the first time you enter a portal world. But even if you also try stacking boxes or water coolers to try and climb around the barriers, there are invisible walls preventing you from water cooling your way over the unbarriered part of the wall. This is the only time where, out of all the resource grind and farming and crafting you gotta do in Abiotic Factor, Shadowgate is the only time out of any of them where I feel it gets a little excessive and, frankly, feeling like it was meaning to pad things out. Let me tell you why. In order to dissolve the barriers that block you from entering the compound and then into the building itself, you need to use null grenades. You have no way of making null grenades before entering Shadowgate, as one of the key crafting materials you need to make them, the embellished sensors, only drop off the witches, which the first time you'll ever see them is here, on the way to Shadowgate. They'll appear later in the next area, but not nearly as often as in Shadowgate, and there are also a base invasion event, which is exclusively witches attacking you. But there is no way to get sensors before entering Shadowgate. To my knowledge, this is the only time in the game where a portal world cannot be completed upon its first entry, unless this is a second playthrough and you already know what goes into making them, and you just bring an entire base and crafting setup into Shadowgate with you the first time to make them on the spot. I'm getting ahead of myself though, because the embellished sensor is just one of the ingredients to make one of the components involved in making null grenades. To make a 3-pack of null grenades, you will need 1 super alloy, 1 purported grimoire, 3 arcane scraps, and 3 tech scraps. You might have noticed that 2 of those 4 things are intermediate materials that in turn require their own materials to be made. The super alloy is easy enough since we've already been making those, requiring 1 trunk of transcendium ore, we know where to get that, 1 vial of radioactive blood, 1 plutonic carapace, and 4 pieces of arcane scraps which can be farmed off the gatekeepers or found in marked boxes in the reactor complex. Hey, didn't we also need arcane scraps for the null grenade itself? We do! And then there's the purported grimoire. In order to make one of these, you'll need 10 pieces of imbued parchment which can be either farmed off gatekeeper enemies or made with normal paper and more arcane scraps, that embellished sensor, 2 pieces of leather for binding, and a flickering eye which drops off the Mystagogue. You can theoretically get 2 off them, if like both them and their laser guy drops 1, but it's still gonna be slow going because, by the way, not all of these things, especially the embellished sensor, are guaranteed drops. So once we break down all the intermediate materials that you will need, what we really need are at least 7 arcane scraps, 1 chunk of transcendium ore, 1 plutonic carapace, 1 vial of irradiated blood, 10 pieces of imbued parchment, 1 flickering eye, 1 embellished sensor, 2 pieces of leather scraps, and 3 pieces of tech scraps to make 3, count them, 3 null grenades. Now multiply that all by 4, because you will want at least a dozen to get through enough barriers in Shadowgate to do what you need to do there. You could theoretically go in with less, but do you really want to have to go back and farm more after whiffing a throw and having one of your null grenades bounce off an angled surface away from anywhere it would be useful? If anything, you're going to want at least 2, preferably 3 full stacks of these things going in, because you also want to have some to deal with the gatekeepers and their shield generators that are actively shooting at you. After doing the math on this, Poe and I decide to stop playing for a bit, and I do the mother of all farming sessions. There's really no way around this. I need to grind for as much of this stuff as possible, often being hard gated by how much I can get at a time, since stuff like transcendium and embellished sensors are things that you need to get from portal worlds, and once you get them all there, you need to wait for that world to reset. In my downtime, I start power leveling my throwing skill, which I haven't bothered to use at all during this entire run, because I noticed that at level 12, you get a perk that lets you craft 1 extra item every time you craft a throwable weapon, which, given how much farming we need to do to make these, it is in my best interest to get that skill. Lucky for me, I have all the stuff I need to make the Quantum Pick, the best throwing item in the game that also has the benefit of teleporting back into your hand after throwing it. Throwing experience is determined by distance between you and your target, so I start making a lot of hits from all the way downtown while waiting for portal worlds to reset. Getting all the stuff I needed to get through Shadowgate took a literal goddamned week in real life. We returned to the Shadowgate portal world, having to clear out all the Fiver Witches again because it's been reset several times now. But lucky for us, the barriers between us and the base don't reset, so the ones we were able to knock out before realizing just how much we needed to farm are still down. There's still a crapload of guys in the compound though, including multiple instances of John Warhammer, but we have a secret weapon, what is easily argued to be the best weapon in the game by sheer damage output, and it's one of the earliest throwables you can craft in the game, the Mugnade. The Mugnade requires some of the easiest to get items in the game, with only the chains you need to craft it needing to be acquired anywhere beyond the offices, and everything else being quite abundant or able to make yourself. The Mugnade not only does an impressive 350 damage, but more importantly, it does explosive damage, which matters because all enemies in-game have damage weaknesses, resistance, and outright immunities, and explosive damage is only resisted by 2 enemies, the Tarrasque and the Order Sapper units, with the former being very rare and the latter dropping like a sack of rocks to basic melee damage. You know what's even better about Mugnades? On top of being very easy to make and cheap to mass produce, Mugnades are an AoE attack, even if that AoE is pretty small compared to other explosives. It is devastatingly effective because you see every enemy in Abiotic Factor has a limb-based damage system where each part of their body has its own health pool, and when depleted, it will pass damage on to the next most alive limb. Like the head. There are very few enemies that can withstand more than 2 Mugnades being tossed at their feet. This makes Mugnades not only one of the quickest ways to deal with almost any enemy in the game, but also by far the most cost-effective way to do it, as all the items you need are very easy to get and can be used in little else besides making Mugnades. I have made a lot of Mugnades. We roll back up to Shadowgate and just start steamrolling through it by just throwing Mugnades at everyone in sight. They have no counter for this. Their shield generators sure are great, aren't they? Screw you! Mugnade! We break into the base and... Dr. Khan again? Hey, wait a minute. Wasn't there an audio log saying that you're actually some kind of ancient eldritch entity that is the longtime foe of all humanity? And oh my god, they have the guy! That's my guy! He needs to go into my soup! Give him to me! I throw mugnades at everything that moves, and anything that survives gets point-blank death laser to the face. Oh yeah, I have a death laser now called the Deatomizer. I've had it for a while, it's just kind of a pain to keep topped off, so I haven't mentioned it until now. I must release this thing so I can put him into soup. I break everything that looks important and release the big thing, but it runs away and leaves a portal. For some reason, the portal ends up leading to the Order's headquarters. There's a guy there who's scared of us and agrees to help us, but I'm pretty tired from all that nonstop violence, so I guess the Order guy can live for now. It's nice to be home again. We've built our base quite a bit. We now have a laser defense grid out by the main entrance, making sure that no serious threats can get too close. I've removed the beds from the little break room area, and now there's a full workshop, and I'm working on individual bedrooms where the cafeteria eating area used to be. We've got all the creature comforts we could ask for. Everything is powered by a battery array that is up and away from everything else so we aren't tripping over cables, which has let me expand my pride and joy. The farm. Our farming setup now allows us to sustain ourselves with no need for foraging. We make more than enough anteverse wheat to not only make plenty of bread for our kitchen area, but also all the starches and vegetables we need to keep us going. We don't even need to water this stuff anymore because we've got moisture condensers that use power to slowly fill all our water containers in an area around them. And the garden plot counts as water containers. Any extra just goes into our barrels for drinking or to be put in the shower. We have a shower now! Hygiene! Best of all, we can finally capture the sinner and keep them in his sin cage, where so long as we keep putting freaky eyeball fruit into his cage every day, he produces sin juice for us. Everything is great here at the base. I'm just gonna step away from my PC for a bit and take a bio break. They fucked up my crops. They spawned in from the other side and fucked up my crops. They're all destroyed.
They fucked my crops! They fucked up my crops! This will not stand. We are going back to the Order's fortress. We are killing every last person in there. And no, whatever else is going on can wait. They need to go right now.
We go back in through the portal to Shadowgate, fly over all the defenses now that our jetpacks work, and back through the other portal because I used my personal teleporter to leave last time instead of finding the exit portal that lets us come right back to the Praetorium, the Order's headquarters. And true to my word, I start killing everything that moves. There are so many bullets on these guys and so much material in all the crates here that it's more than enough to fuel my rampage through their headquarters. Hell, I have to portal home halfway through because we're grabbing so much stuff that I gotta drop some off back in the base. You know what the most infuriating part of this entire rampage is? There is an abundant, low-level enemy here that doesn't even fight back and goes down in like one hit. And when you kill them, you will get a guaranteed drop of a purported grimoire. You know, the things we had to spend a shitload of time farming to get through the last portal world? There are other enemies here that we have never seen up until now, and we're just steamrolling through them because I figured out that if you allow the laser collectors to reload things, you know, like my Deatomizer, you can fill them up completely and deconstruct them. And then you can pack them up and plop them down literally anywhere and they'll still have a full charge. Meaning I can set my Deatomizer to annihilate and not have to worry about running out of energy. Poe and I carve our way through the Praetorium, flattening an actual goddamn tank and getting right into their mission control, where I leave one very important set of instructions for any remaining Order members who were away when we were here or chose to hide while I visited. Do not ever fuck with my crops. If you ever try to fuck with my crops again, I will scour your ashes across my field and consume you during the next harvest. Now look upon the remains of your comrades and ask yourself if trifling in my affairs is worth it. It's at this point I remember that the Order stole something pretty important from us, so I head up to the last place of this fortress and oh damn, it's the sun disk. Yeah, that was pretty important. That was what kept all the portals stable. I'm not sure exactly how I'm supposed to take this back, but whoa. I feel a little tingly. It's like I have 1,000,000 of the lodestone in my pocket and I feel like I can do anything. Let's head back. So the portal out of here, oddly enough, puts us just beyond the set of double doors outside the offices that we were never able to open up until this point. You know what's on the other side? Residential. A place that might just be our way out of this facility. No, really, the entirety of this adventure has been necessitated by a single set of one-way doors. Video games! Well, I guess there's no reason not to go to residential now. There's nowhere else to go. meaning that whatever meaningful solution there is to getting out of the GATE Cascade Facility is probably there. We will not be seeing any meaningful attacks from the Order anymore, because the majority of them are now dead. We're probably not going to be seeing any more Gatekeepers anymore, because I'm pretty sure most of them are dead too. There is nothing behind us, so we must move towards what is in front of us. We're about to enter residential proper, and hey, it's that guy who begged for his life earlier. Why, I oughta... Oh hey, it's Abe and Janet, nice kill! So you might have noticed that the AC in residential is on the fritz, and it's really, really cold out here. Touching the sun disk is made mandatory in the game by just how cold it is in residential, as even with all the possible heat sources in-game, without a permanent +1 to warmth from the sun disk, you will freeze to death. You still need that insulation though, as even with the sun disk, you will still freeze to death quick without additional protection. Hey, remember the Hydra plant where we farmed that portal world Voussois a lot? Yeah, that was no accident. Voussois is also cold enough to where you will quickly freeze to death if you come in unprepared, and you'll need to craft your first set of cold weather gear to get through it. Lucky for you, there's an exit portal right at the beginning of Voussois to stop you from dying and losing all your stuff in a single minute in case you missed the recipe for snow gear on the whiteboard just outside the entrance to the portal. That stuff works here, but we can do better. If you do a lot of wiki diving, you'll notice that a lot of the endgame upgrades for suits of armor have cold protection added in, which is nice, but you won't be able to make these upgrades until well after you're in residential and you've farmed up a lot of mats there. Lucky for us, all the enemies in Voussois drop pieces of their armor set, which on top of having some of the highest defense in the game, also comes with the highest cold protection in the game. Good thing we farmed that place so much we have 4 or 5 full sets of armor there just laying around. So while the not-so-normal cold doesn't get to us too much, the swirling death vortex at the top of the residential area certainly is, and those little dust devils going around the area hurt pretty bad too. There are also new versions of the pests and peccaries that have adapted to the extreme temperatures here, and while they aren't quite as nasty as the guys back in the reactor, there sure are a lot of them. You're going to need to kill a lot of these guys if you're planning on upgrading your normal sets of armor to the top tiers with cold resistance if you want to use their set bonuses while going through residential. You're also going to need something called the Frost Orb, which we'll get to later. There are 2 enemies that drop those, and one of them is a cyborg Yeti that hangs out on the top level. You know the drill. We gotta find some stuff to put in a thing that will fix what's wrong with the area. There will be extreme violence along the way. The Fiver Witches weren't expecting the power of science and mugnades, mostly the mugnades, though because these things have a crazy kick. Most of the time in residential is spent first patching over the hole in reality that's leaking absolute zero into the building, and then, once that's all gone, it's a lot of hunting Yetis to find how to get to higher floors, and then doing the sensible thing and planting those rope vines we found way back in the Myco fields so we don't have to walk all the way over to the elevators we fixed. When we get to the upper levels, we eventually find a way to get into the senior researchers' apartments where we find the schematics for the thermocell. An end-game intermediate crafting material will need to make an extra hot flamethrower that can melt through the interdimensional permafrost that is presently barring us from going deeper into the residential complex, where we can probably get the potential source of all the tears in reality all patched up. Yep, that'll probably do it. Even when the fabric of reality is in our case literally tearing at the seams, setting things on fire is still an effective countermeasure. Also, it's a solid weapon in its own right, save for the detractor that it is a laser-powered weapon, meaning you gotta lug around a laser collector and plop that thing down every time you want to reload it, or once it's spent, it becomes a big dead weight in your inventory. There's another thing we find in this apartment though. Rat Friend. Rat Friend is technically a subject in Containment, and he's a rat that's been experimented on to give sentience and teach human languages. It worked, but he is single-minded in what he wants. It's a very good thing. I have a strategic reserve of cheese thanks to initially thinking it was some kind of soup because I made it in a pot. We gift Rat Friend an offering of cheese and he is eternally thankful to us. It's not all fun and cheese though, because the sinner's polar cousin is here, and on top of trying to kill you and not being able to be killed with hammers, they can literally freeze you in place if you don't catch them in time. This is a Krasu, another creature brought over from South Asian folklore according to the wiki, who's a lot worse than the sinner given that you're boned if you can't spot them in time, and they kind of blend in with the icy background. The saving grace here is that they only appear in places of extreme cold, not including portal worlds, so kinda like death, you only have to deal with them in residential. Until the new weather event starts. Yeah, just like how every other new area will introduce a new weather event related to the area, once you enter residential, Every night there is a chance that all of the GATE Cascade Facility gets really, really cold until you find a way to turn it off. And now everywhere is the Krasu's hunting ground. Lucky for us, that's actually kind of a good thing because the thermocells we got to make with the flamethrower also upgrade the OX light into an anti-Krasu device, and we can put it into a cell just like the Sinner. I couldn't be bothered though because I had other concerns. We are in the end game and we're making some serious tech now. I'm talking laser swords, an advanced teleportation network because who can be bothered to take the trams or the hydroplant network, and more mug nades. We are getting a lot of endgame resources and making a lot of endgame things, but ironically, the things we are running out of are staplers and screws. Screws aren't so bad because we can make those with scrap metal, and we can reliably farm scrap metal every night off the security bots. It's the staplers that are an issue. Yes, in a world where you can make teleportation devices and powered armor, we cannot replicate the simple springs and hinges that we need to take from staplers. Unless you tweak the in-game settings, items found in the GATE Cascade Facility will not respawn, and even if you do tick that box, the respawn rate is so low that it's hard to farm reliably, and I think only applies to the boxes, but not like world objects. So you're going to have to farm portal worlds since those do reset. Unfortunately, very few portal worlds have a ton of staplers in them. It's basically just a second half of flat hill and the optional high rise where I got my eggs from. We need those staplers to make projection matrices to make basically everything else, and there is one other way we can get more of them. Trading. There's a guy right in the lobby of the GATE facility that we haven't had a need for up until this point, but now we have desperate need of him because he will trade us for his strategic reserve of staplers. He will give us one stapler for each fillet of fish we bring to him. Too bad my fishing skill is underleveled. Well, I guess it's time to rack up them fishies. I power level my fishing skills to get a high enough level where I can make all the fishing gear like the chair, the pants, and most importantly the fish traps so I can industrialize my fishing operation. Yes, I developed teleportation before I was able to make a simple fishing trap, and all in the name of hoarding staplers. I expand my network of portals to include spots at each of the ponds where anti-fish spawn. I set up my traps, and then every time I do my run around all the portal worlds that have staplers in them, I go back and check the traps. Several dozen staplers later, and I can build the last of the things we need to press on into the final area of the game where the Fiver Witches are back and now they want to ruin my crops! Away with you! Well, now we know why residential was so relatively small for how many people we used to have in this place. Most of it got eaten by the Singularity. There is no more residential food court or housing offices, and a lot of the stuff that's also associated with it, like the rest of the apartments. It's all been ripped into fragments that are just floating in a void of nothing. It's not even space in a traditional sense. It is a literal void of reality, to the point that our jump packs just straight up refuse to calibrate because there is nothing to calibrate them on. Whereas even if we were in the vacuum of space, there'd be at least something for them to push against. Our options on where we can go are understandably very, very limited. We need to get all the way back to the end of this void where we can see something going on around a really big portal, but the gaps are far too large for us to jump across them. There are these little orbs of physics deciding that they're just going to wing it today, but they aren't going in the direction we want them to go. We can use them to get to another part of the gate labs though, and it's very cautious and slow going because we don't know where exactly these things are going to fling us or how hard they're going to do it until after we go through them. And if we slip and fall here, there is nothing to land on. We just fall forever, and I guess we'd eventually starve to death or dehydrate or something, but I don't want to do that. Look, just make sure you don't make any especially bold jumps and make sure you've got your personal teleporter if you do, and we'll be okay. So going through that little opening in the lab shows us quite a sight. The labs are utterly in ruins. Not like destroyed as all the other places have been, where sure, containment's broken, but it's been destroyed for a long time, like it's been abandoned for years. This doesn't even look like anything to do with the portals. This kind of looks like it was a botany lab or something. Worse yet is that every particularly nasty bad guy we've come across is here too. The really big Exors, the Order Assassins that we saw a few of destroying their headquarters, and all the annoying varieties of pest. We start to wonder if this area is somehow much farther in time than the other places, or perhaps there was some sort of previous containment breach that happened in the past which was sealed off. But the latter only makes sense if all the entities we've seen here got migrated through some sort of portal, which, actually that's plausible. We're in an area where all reality has broken down. There's also more funny orb things here and, hey wait, we're in the same place, but Holy moly, time has broken here instead of space. These orbs take us through time. We're now back in the facility where everything looks brand new. This is the challenge of the area. We need to go back and forth through time as needed to get deeper and deeper into these labs and find a set of schematics for something that will let us get closer to the big portal in the back of Fragments. It's slow going though. The enemies here are an all-star lineup of people who are going to scrap us for fleshy parts, and without the help of our jetpacks, any fall here is basically a trip back to base to heal up if we're lucky. I end up making us an entire forward operating base over by what's left of the food court, complete with a defense grid and a portal linking back to the main base because we're coming and going so much. Surprisingly, the part of the game where no one area is more than 5 minutes unenhanced walk away from the starting cafeteria still holds up all the way out here, as the entrance to the Fragments is just outside of a back door into manufacturing right by the control room for the Super Collider, which just so happens to have a base of the last remaining Order soldiers in it, and a base means more pots for soup. After a few tries, we finally get to where the schematics are for whatever is going to get us across the portal, and it's the Etsy Witch again. She says she's got a special portal set up just for us that will give us everything we need. Screw it, the Etsy Witch is the only person who's been honest with us about everything, even if she's got a taste for being vague. We step through the portal and we're in the far future? We're in an entirely new facility, which seems to be a really big wall. I don't want to find out what we're trying to keep out with this wall, so let's get through this as fast as we can. Surprisingly, the gatekeepers here aren't trying to kill us. In fact, they're going to help us. The head of this facility tells them to let us through and to an exit that, more importantly, has some kind of suit that's on display. We get the schematics for the excursion suit, a protective suit that gives us a double jump, and the motion modules we need to make the suit. Lucky for me, I just so happen to be farming all the materials we need to make them, so we can just get right to it. With the help of the excursion suits, we're able to double jump our way through the large gaps in the Fragments and get to the last stronghold of the gatekeepers that are still trying to kill us. We are so well armed at this point that they don't do much. We install the motion modules onto their shield generators, which breaks them, and we probably could have just turned these off or smacked them a few times, but okay. And we're finally able to make it to the end of Fragments, where Dr. Khan is in the control tower to the portal device? How did you even get here? It took us stealing and developing a technology from the literally distant future to get over here, and you're just hanging out? You've just been here? He tells us that we gotta take out the head Nistagog in order to break his focus on the shielding the portal so we can go through and end all of this. That requires dropping his buddies that are in turn shielding him, which at this point feels more like chores than combat. I have put their trinkets into my soup and learned their secrets. I too can float now and shoot fire from my hands. I have no need of armor anymore, because all there is in this world is soup and things that are yet to be soup. Let's see what's so special about the other side of this portal. Holy shit, we're out of the facility! I have no idea where we are, but we're not in GATE anymore. The title blurb says we're in a place called Albatross Island, which is some sort of GATE research outpost that's not a portal world. We're out. There's probably enough stuff on this island that we can make a boat or something, and the lighthouse implies that ships pass close enough to this island that we can try and signal one if that doesn't work out. Dr. Khan has also gotten to the island. It is telling us that we need to touch the special dais with our imbuement from the sun disk, and it'll, he's not even BSing anymore. Dr. Khan is not Dr. Khan. He is actually an immortal servant of an interdimensional entity that basically eats universes to sustain its existence. This is the final boss of the game, and I read up a lot of warnings about this fight because Abiotic Factor is the fun kind of wiki game where you're so interested in everything you're seeing in-game that you wander over the wiki to learn more. I know what's coming. We are prepared for this fight. I pack up all of our stuff from the forward operating base and Fragments and plop it all down in this convenient building with outlets on Albatross, and add even more stuff like additional laser collectors and a laser emitter to keep them topped off. We've got a full workbench with a healing emitter, repair benches, a fridge full of food, and a medicine cabinet full of healing serum and bandages. We are ready for a protracted fight. We stop by the main base and arm ourselves like that one scenario in the Matrix. Our hotbars are filled with nothing but weapons and healing or escape items, and our inventories are filled with ammo and more healing items. I'm packing my laser sword, my heavily upgraded freezing shotgun, the deatomizer, a plasma-powered SMG, a rocket launcher just cause I thought that would be fun, and I rebuilt my saw gun, but now it fires saw blades of pure plasma. Poe is also armed to the teeth with everything else we can find in the GATE facility. We've also got the Etsy Witch and her entire squad backing us up. And we also rescued Kylie and got her a new robot body so she can help out too. Kylie is actually a big part of the game, even though her quest line is something that you can easily miss if you aren't eagle-eyed back in the Hydra plant and exploring every inch of every place you go. or if you're a wiki fiend like I am. I haven't really talked about her much because, well, you've seen the runtime of this video. Kylie's on rocket duty, the Etsy John Warhammer and Chieftain are on suppressing fire, the Mystigog is on heals, and the Etsy Witch herself is aura farming or something, I don't know. Okay, Dr. Khan, we'll do your little ritual. Holy shit, it's the big thing! You need to get into my soup! Alright, so yeah, this is a big fight, but we are over-prepared. On top of making sure we have all possible allies for this showdown in the best gear possible, having laser collectors we can just plop down in the middle of the fight trivializes a lot of it, because I can set my deatomizer to maximum violence mode and dump a whole charge into the entity, instantly mulching through an entire phase of this fight, and then just completely recharge it in a single second to mulch through the next phase when the big guy pops up again. It effectively removes the one limiting factor on the deatomizer's power. Same goes for the laser sword, which is great for clearing out all the tentacle monsters the entity spawns because it's a wide, long-range AoE attack that does a lot of damage at the cost of having very limited uses, which we have removed the limits on. I still use my shotgun and SMG just to get through the excess ammo we've been carrying around, but we are never really in any danger of being seriously hurt as we're just too well armed. This so-called Eater of Worlds goes down like a very large sack of potatoes that I am going to peel and make into a soup. We get a bit more time at the end to talk to everyone we've met along the way up to this point. Abe and Janet are here, or well, just Janet, as Abe has stolen a submarine. Dr. Frake, the Etsy Witch and friends. Dr. Thule, that one lady who was pretending to be a witch back in Canaan. This is it. We've done it. We have escaped the facility and mildly inconvenienced an outer god. This game doesn't just end though. We're now masters of the GATE Cascade Facility and all the portal worlds connected to it, and are free to build and explore to our heart's content. Or we could just hang out on the island and wait for someone to come pick us up. I think I'll have more fun in GATE though, as I still haven't used my rocket launcher yet. This was one hell of an adventure. I loved Abiotic Factor and how it combines all the best elements of survival crafting and immersive sim and being a love letter to Half-Life and the SCP Foundation into one amazing game. This whole playthrough was 123 hours according to my save file, and that's with the help of my office adventuring buddy Poe and Wungus the intern to get through the toughest parts of the game. This video was so huge because I just love this game so much, and every minute of it here, I have had an hour of play on this save alone. This game is great alone or with friends. This game has so much to do in it because for the however many times I've said it now, there's so much I didn't talk about in this video. You could probably get up to 200 hours in a single save of this game if you really wanted to do everything, like find all the database entries and all the soup recipes and all the extra areas. Heck, this game is fairly replayable too. You can try this game with an entirely different build or using different sets of weapons as your main, or even just intentionally picking all the negative traits just to see if you can really challenge yourself. I found out that after I bought this for my dad, the madman is playing the game with as little base building as possible and just roaming through the facility and taking whatever he needs and only crafting when he absolutely has to. And you know what else? Since playing this game last year, there's been a bunch of new updates, including new portal worlds to serve as your home base if you're feeling fancy, a good deal of new items to use, and some new buffs related to cooking, and even a whole new area with a new boss fight in it. Last I checked, Deep Field has a roadmap for the post-release treats that started last October and currently has stuff mapped out all the way until this summer, with more possibly coming after that. They also put out a survey a while back hinting that they might be considering either a full-blown DLC or something else in the GATE universe, so this definitely isn't the end, but only time will tell what they get up to. I want to thank you all so much for your patience on this, and once again, thank you so much for watching. I started this video in earnest when the game went 1.0 in July of 2025, so this has taken me 8 months to go from start to finish, and I'm happy it's finally out. This is easily the longest video I've ever made. I know it's been 3 months between this and my last upload, but there was actually another video I was planning on making, but after a literal year of just bouncing right off that game no matter what I tried, I decided to scrap it rather than make something really salty and potentially piss off a fandom. Can you believe at one point I thought I was going to release this video and the New Vegas video in the same month? I promised all of you that while I'm going to be taking more time on my videos, more so than before because things are changing on YouTube, the next video won't take nearly as long as this one. It's going to be about Pathologic 3 and oh boy, do I have some thoughts on that one. If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to see when the next thing comes out. And don't forget now that I have a second channel where I'm going to be more active to putting out shorter, more on a whim type videos between big stuff like this. I also stream on Twitch now for games just like this because if I'm gonna play something like this, I may as well play it with all of you. I know, I'm doing a bit much these days, but that's just how you gotta operate if you want to survive in this new internet landscape. I'm one of the last one-man operations out here, so I need all the support I can get. I'd like to ask you all to please consider pledging to my Patreon. I love what I do here, and I want to do more of it for you, and patronage is the best way to keep that going. The Patreon's got all kinds of rewards like early videos and full recipes and standalone videos for cooking segments. Also, if you want to support me but aren't ready to pledge yet, I do regularly post free progress updates on there that you can keep track of what I'm doing week to week and how the next video is coming along. If you want to support me, but just don't gel with monthly subscriptions or Patreon itself, I also have recently set up a Ko-Fi account where you can give me one-time support without having to jump through Patreon's hoops. Heck, if you've got Amazon Prime, you can kick me your free Prime sub over on Twitch without any extra cost to yourself. Anything you can help me out with helps a ton. I want to thank Poe and Wungus for joining me on this big adventure, and again, I want to thank all of you for watching. Let's sign off. Remember that what you do is art, not content. Be it drawing fan art, playing music, or making increasingly large soups, it is yours and it is special because it is yours. Only you can do it, and the world would be a worse place without it, so keep doing it. Art is undeniably a reflection of its creator through the very act of its creation, so put all your love, skills, and passions you have into making your art and make this world a better place. Stay saucy.
Sir! Sir, what are you doing? He got so excited to jump up. It's been like a literal year since he jumped up here. What are you doing up here? You were in such a fuss I had to move stuff for you to jump up here because if you didn't get up there, you wanted to go be a potato. You wanted to be in the pantry. What are you doing? We're gonna have to check up there, make sure there's nothing you're rolling around in. You're running around all crazy? Are you sitting down? Are you finally calming down? What is going on with you? And that saucy little head? Okay, are you chilling out? Don't give me a crazy look right as I ask if you're finally chilling out. Oh, you hear that? Mommy's washing her hands. She's almost out here. You'll get in trouble. Well, your punishment, man. We're probably gonna, I don't know. I don't know how we negatively reinforce this cat.